Welcome to the Roadrunner 89 Investment Network, where we talk about interracial love and marriage. Hope you enjoy. Swirl to Investment.
All right, how's everybody doing tonight? Tonight, I want to talk about how to make a connection, dating and marriage, black women, white men. And tonight, I got a special guest. I'll go ahead and bring her up here. And this is my friend Lisa. She comes on every now and then on the show. She's got her own channel, Sun, Venus, Moon. So check out her channel. She talks about positivity and I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself. And, I thought that bringing her up here would be good for the discussion when it comes to interracial dating and marriage. And I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself. And then I'm going to show a video and then we'll get to the discussion. But anyway, Lisa, welcome to tonight's show.
Hey, everyone. Thank you, Brent, for allowing me on. Hi, B. Michelle, and everyone else. So my name's Lisa. I am a spiritual mentor. So for those who want to develop their spiritual gifts, especially women, Black women, I really work with them one-on-one on sort of navigating how to develop those skills, very heavily into the divine feminine energy, which has been extremely powerful. And that actually has helped with a lot of what I've been doing. So I've been in an interracial marriage. We divorced and we still co-parent and we're still really good friends. He dates Black women now post-divorce. I date white men now post-divorce. So we're still like, no, it was a beautiful thing. I don't think of it as a failed marriage. I just think of it as something as a learning experience and growth. But I've been on the dating market for the last maybe 2 years. And I don't say this lightly, but I went from like no one paying attention to me to whenever I go out, I generally attract, men, and they are white, to sort of either come up, or I know how to make those connections to go from I see them out to actually getting their numbers, but in a way that is more feminine and isn't aggressive or masculine. And it's a skill set. So I wanted to share that. And I'm always going to say, this isn't about being the most attractive person there. Every room I've been in, I'm not the most attractive woman. However, I attract the most men, right? Because of my energy. And I really want to talk about like those things because it's not just being in a place, it's a skill set. So I just wanted to share some tips. And at the end, invite anyone else who has tips on how they've made connections and how they navigate it to come on, because this is a sisterhood. And with a sisterhood, we all share and help. Not everyone knows all the answers. But if enough of us come together with like the good intention to help build each other up, we all win. And it has been easier for me to date interracially because the first men who showed they like me were white and Hispanic men. So I've always been like, well, okay, well, this is good. But I know that it's hard for someone who's been so entrenched in the Black community. Coming out of it can be very intimidating. And there's like levels to this. I'm even going to talk about places where no men are attracted to me, and you need to know those places as well as the places they are, right? And you have to be able to read these signs, because not all communities, not all groups of white men are the same, right? In some areas, yep. I don't go there expecting that. In other areas, they're really open about it, and we have to talk about that, especially if you're new, because it can help save you some painful experiences. So,
yeah, and when we talk about this interracial dating to marriage, and I think it's best to have women give their perspective, because we approach in different ways. The men approach, the women, they're in a place to where they're noticed and seen. And as Lisa was saying, a sisterhood where you guys can learn from each other. And with us guys, I think it's more basic and simple for us. We approach and we get up the courage. And there's ways to approach, to be loving and respectful. And we can always talk about that stuff. But for women, I mean, you got to be a little more strategic, and you're. I think you are more strategic than us guys. We're a lot of times have a one-track mind, and we're basic a lot of times.
I'd say,
but-
especially with white men, I have to be even more so. I feel.
Yeah, and there's that stigma there, or that
They just roll differently. They just roll differently.
Yeah, we do. But that's things you can learn about. We have a different way of approaching than black men do. We got a different culture. We not to say one way's better than the other, but we're different in a way. So, but thank you, Creating One. I appreciate that. Yeah, happy Veterans Day to all that have served and that are serving. And DK, you asked, can we have a panel Monday? Yeah, we can. I love panels. But let me show you this video. This video is awesome. Okay. It's from a channel that there was a short sent to me, and it's an interracial couple that have been married for 45 years. Okay. They're both 71. And it's a real loving couple. They've been successful. They have kids and grandkids, and you can just feel the love when you watch their channel. And I wanted to show you this channel, and check out their channel. Go and view it, like it, subscribe it. It's worth it, and you can learn from them. I mean, they're baby boomers, and they made it work. So if they can, we surely can, right? But anyway, let me go ahead and put the disclaimer up, the copyright disclaimer. Okay. All right. Fair use, guys. All right. We're going to use this video and uplift these content creators. And, they have a lovely channel. It's awesome. Once I got it, I subscribed right away. Okay. It's a very beautiful channel, and you'll like it. And it's in the description box. I give them a shout out. It's Jerry and Mike, and that's the name of their channel. But anyway, I'm going to leave. If you need to read the disclaimer, you could come back. I'm not going to read it to you, but we're going to use it in the Fair Use Act for education, for commentary, so we can learn something. Because we can always learn from generations before us. They have more wisdom because they've been on the earth longer. They've been through things more than we have. But anyway, let me go ahead and show this. And I'll stop it in between and talk a little bit about it. But she's telling about her parents, but her husband will come in on there too. But let me go ahead and show it.
My name is Geraldine. I'm 71 years old, and these are my parents, Anna Mae and Arthur. I lost them when I was just a teenager. I miss them so much, and I think about them every single day. Life was very lonely without them until I met Michael. We fell in love in 1976.
Okay, 1976. Okay, and you can tell by how they dress and their hairstyles. That's from the 70s, yes. And they've been married ever since. This is a beautiful thing. Black women and white men, making it last. The relationship, the marriage, coming together.
His parents, Doris and Frank, were so kind to me. Doris always told me she wanted a daughter, and when Michael and I got married, she said she finally got her daughter. And then I had a daughter. We named her Nicole.
Hey, I might stop it right there. And guys, you know what's beautiful about this is the parents, accepted her into the family. That's a beautiful thing. Not all parents do this, okay? But they did. So, and that probably helped in the beginning, getting comfortable with each other and the family. Um, but I just wanted to point that out because this don't always happen.
Doris and Frank loved their granddaughter so much, and they welcomed everyone they met with love and kindness. And their love stays with my family and I forever.
"45 years, guys. 45 years. When they got married, me and my wife Sandy were 7 years old. Okay, let that sink in. Okay, 45 years. Awesome, right? And you can just feel the love. And if you watch their videos, I'm telling you, you'll love their channel. Go over there, subscribe, like their videos, get their views up. They deserve it. They're setting an awesome example when it comes to interracial relationships. Okay, I already subscribed. I'm going to watch more of their content. It's beautiful. I like to see this. I like to see black women and white men winning, having awesome marriages. Okay. And she was doing it in memory of her parents. She lost them at a young age. You know, but she found a man that loves her, and his family accepted her in, and that's a blessing. It really is. But it's check out their channel. It's in the description box. Like I said, go subscribe, and like their videos. They're really good videos. Real loving couple that have stood the test of time. Okay, and this. Honestly, long marriages with black women, white men are not unusual. They are lasting, and even marriages that don't work, it seems like it's better than other groups that marriages don't work. It's like
very good co-parenting, and every guy I've dated who also has a black wife, they're like, yeah, no, she lives in one of my houses, or I take care of both of them still. So it's very funny how it's really, really good co-parenting relationships because we still are focused on our children no matter what.
Yeah. And another thing, I've noticed that in interracial marriages, even if they don't last, it seems like white men will look for another black woman. And it seems to go the other way too. And, there's something there. And I think we're having more success because we're going more for the long-term relationship than the beginning attraction and that, which is important, but there's more to a relationship than just the physical. Okay, it goes way beyond. You got to be connected, emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. You got to love on all cylinders is what I say, and it seems like we get more out of that than other groups. And when white men marry black women, they have more successful marriages than when white men marry white women. Okay, that's been statistically proven. And black women, they have more success opening up their options than within their community. And something is happening, and it's a blessing. But I wanted to show you guys this. And if you want to be in an interracial relationship, you can do it. And you don't, and ladies, you don't have to be a supermodel. And guys, you don't have to look like Brad Pitt in his prime. Okay. A lot more goes than just looks, your energy, your personality. There's a lot of different factors in that. And Lisa here, she's been married interracially and she's dated interracially, so she has experience. And I'll let her, explain her experiences and what works for her. And, what works for her might not work for you, but then again, it might,
Mhm.
it just depends. But anyway,
Good. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to start. There's a couple of things I want to talk about, sort of navigating the friend group aspect and like going for getting it from, oh, we're looking at each other to like overcoming the hump as a woman, but like staying in a feminine way. Cause I know we can all just go up and ask for a number, but I'm just going to say what I've noticed about navigating how they roll. And if you adapt to that, know the rules, you can sort of enter the cheat codes to sort of get past that straight to, what you want, which is a connection. And then I'll also talk about like how you show up in these groups because it is different. So I just wanted to talk about my experience. And I would like to say I've been dating for about 2 years, and I don't say this lightly, and I'm not saying this to brag, but I have turned down 2 marriage proposals. One from a black man, one from a white man. Love for both. It's actually not easy to turn them down because they were great men, and it honestly is really hard. But I just really know what I want, and even though they checked off most of my list, it wasn't all. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. Like this does get results, and it's up to you about who you're going to choose ultimately. But this can help give you some tools so you attract them in a way that you're, and don't take this the wrong way, but you're still in control. Like I'm being feminine, but I'm in control of the relationship. And you're almost can be sort of in control of the pursuit too, in a certain way. So I just want to go over that. And I'm also going to talk about it's different sometimes, especially me, because I'm in Virginia, the Southeast. So it gets there's a little bit more class consciousness than when I was out in the West Coast or California, where it can be all an equal playing field. If you're in the group, you're in the group. Whereas out here, there is like a consciousness, like there is a subtle difference. And because of that, they roll a little differently. And I found that if you adapt to that, it's really easy to navigate within it. So that's where I want to start. Okay. So I'm going to talk about 2 parts of it. So the first part is just going to navigating the friend groups and the communities. So the thing that has is this lady. I love Jesus. Jesus is amazing. I talk to him all the time. So yes, I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm not religious though. And there's a difference. I have a personal relationship outside of that. As I wish everyone would, honestly. So let's talk about the friend group and the navigating of that. So I am a big proponent of when you're ready to go out there, finding your social group or social community. And within that, that's how you start navigating the friend group and everything. But let's be strategic about it. So yes, if you like rock climbing, that's okay. But is there a rock climbing group that gets together and goes to a bar? I go to bars and I don't drink. So you don't have to drink at a bar, but do they have that social aspect? So my personal thing is karaoke, as everyone knows. So I go to karaoke, you start to see the same people over and over again, and you start to enter their friend group, right? But some people are like, oh, I like rock climbing or I like knitting, and there's groups for that, but are they co-ed, right? Do they have a social aspect? So I'm just going to name off some of the groups I know where like start building a community and be strategic about it, preferably in something you're good at, because then you shine and stand out, right? And then it's easier to attract people when you stand out. So if you have a talent in singing or dancing and you join a group where that's what you do, like that's going to be the easiest way. If you want to make this easy, that'll be the easiest way to not only build a social connection with something you love and you're passionate about, but also choosing one that has the social included. So that's like kickball, right? Kickball. Like I don't do kickball, but what do you know about kickball? It's adults playing kickball. Yeah, that's fun, but they're really just doing it so they can hang out at the bar and chat. Did we lose Brent? Am I still going? Can you guys still hear me?
Okay, sorry about that. I kicked myself off. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
Right. So I was
Yeah.
saying like strategic, like and there's runners group if you're a runners. Well, every time you go to a different city, you can join the runners group. And the runners group usually have a really good social club where they're like, yeah, after they run their 1, 2, 3 miles, they go out socially and get to know each other. Right. Like these are like the easiest, most slam dunk. I do karaoke, but I have a friend who does open mic. Whenever he travels, wherever he goes out in the city, he goes to different open mics. he knows and builds a community around it. And that'll be the easiest way. So yes, you have your passions, right? So maybe you like to paint, maybe you like to do this, but you want to choose one that has a social element, and that'll be the fastest, easiest. And there has to be one that you have. I just named a few, and I find that's the easiest way that I navigate to sort of do that, right? And so once you do that, it's a lot easier. And I'm saying being strategic because not every one of them has that. So just really think about that. Like if you want to connect and meet, well, the wider you cast your net, the better. But, and we're going to start talking about this, what I've noticed among white men and women, they roll a little differently. It is subtle. So if you come, and I don't come from the Black community, so I think I'm able to adapt a little bit better because I was always a little bit of an outsider. Ever since I was 5, they were like, you talk like a white girl. And I looked at them like, and so I don't know. So I was always like a little bit of an outsider, which I was okay with. So I just didn't get indoctrinated in any cultural norms. I just did me, and I took what I wanted and threw away the rest, right? So because of that, I just noticed they do certain things like this. And I find when I go out, I find a few white men will come up and approach me, but that also is how I present myself. But if you're not presenting yourself a certain way, I find that they just sort of stand off, and they really use the dynamic of the friend group to really get to know you and make that leap. And I want to talk about making that leap from the friend group into an actual connection. And I pretty much have this down to, I mean, it's a science at this point. It's an art and a science, but it's like, this is what you do. It's going to sound crazy, but the friend group, all right? What I've noticed is get comfortable. So maybe the first day, but I've noticed I've had better results when it's like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th time that I've met them. Within those first 6 times, as you're building a community and you're still having fun, you're with your friends, preferably doing something where you stand out, because I'm just going to say it. White people love it when you're talented, man. If you're Black and talented, they just want to snatch you up, right? So if you're doing something you're good at, that's great. If you're not that good, don't worry. You're still going to be a part of the friend group, but it'll be easier to stand up and attract eyes. So a lot of this is about attraction. And when you do something where you being strategic, doing something where you stand out, you shine. When you shine, that is an energy that is attractive, right? And sometimes we lose sight and we're not being as strategic as we can be in showcasing ourselves, right? So once so get it started, and I would let drop within the first few times, and I do this all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm dating right now, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, I'll mention it in some way, and that's a signal. And then generally by like the 5th or 6th time, if there's somebody who was interested and you guys are getting to know each other and you've done that, they're going to start talking to you more. And that's when, and so I find this really easy, and I really like the friend and social community way of finding a date. And that is when you ask the man to help you with something and you get their number. Like, I don't care what it is. I will make up any excuse that I need their help to do something. Like, I don't care what it is. I will be like, oh, you're really good with shoes. Well, my shoe broke. Can you help me? I just want to take a picture and send it to you. Right now, I'm lying my ass off. I don't need their help. Okay. Like, I just need to establish the connection. But what I'm trying to say is that they're so subtle. And if you expect them to be all aggressive, I mean, I really only find some men do that. The rest, especially if you're not like, it's one thing if you're really dressed up, you're really shining bright, that'll like men will approach you. And that's usually how I roll. But if you're not doing that, not everyone does that. They don't go all out. They don't dress up. They're not wearing makeup and heels and perfume, right? If you're just like a regular person, sort of being just like a regular person, not standing out, like these other subtle ways. And it's always been when I've asked them for help and I started texting, we started texting. And that's when I will get invited. Like, hey, do you want to come over? Or do you want to do this? Or after we hang out, would you like to go for a nightcap or go out to a cafe? So I would say that's the biggest thing is like, understand they're not Black men. So also understand they do things more subtly within their community that doesn't really put them out or in the spotlight, because the fear of rejection. So if they do talk to me in a bar, they'll make sure if I'm by myself, which I do a lot of, they'll come and talk to me because I'm by myself. But if you're with people, like, it's just not going to happen. So if you're eyeing a guy and you feel that there's like this potential and a connection and it's not progressing, like, it's okay for you to progress it, but just do it in a way where you're like soliciting their help. And I just find like white men are just trained to like, oh, I got to help you. You need help. I need to help you.
Mhm.
Right? Like, what do you need? What do you need? You're asking me for help. I want to help. Like, I have no hesitation to ask men for help. And I honestly, I could be like taking, I was in my front yard putting up a tent and a guy walked by and I was like, can you help me put this tent up? And he was like, sure. Right. Like, get used to that and get comfortable with that because men generally like to help. I mean, am I lying, Brent?
No, you're right. And
They love it.
it's in our culture to be, helpful. Chivalry still is a thing. Doing stuff for women. A lot of us have been taught and trained that, to help women out, to do things for them. And a lot in our culture, we do coddle our women. We do. We treat them like little princesses. It's in our culture. I've done it with my daughters. And we're just been uh trained to do that, kind of conditioned that we take care of women, and even if we don't have a relationship, we still do stuff for them. And you know and I think that's a little bit different to where maybe black men, when they approach, if we just, it's built into us. We're supposed to help women. We're supposed to protect. Not saying all white men do this, okay? But basically in our culture, it's still there. Marriage is still in our culture. And, usually if a white man is interested in you, he's not going to waste time to ask for your hand in marriage. Where other times you see people having a fiance for 2, 3, 8, 12 years, and I'm seeing this stuff, and I'm like, what are these people doing? Um, you know, when I met my wife, 2 months after I met her, I proposed to her. And people say, well, gosh, that's fast. But that's really how we work. Usually white people, when they go to college, um, or, you know, get a trait, they'll be looking for a relationship, for a marriage. And not all, but for the most part, we do. And if you look at stats, white men are more out to marry you than black men, even in a racial relationship.
The last guy who asked me for marriage, that was like a week ago, and we were dating for 5 weeks, but
Hmm.
he was pretty serious, and I had to go, just because just not fitting what I need for the future, and this is my second marriage, so I don't want to do it. But like it's 5 weeks, but like I was very clear, like, hey, are you looking for marriage? Are you looking for that? So we got on that conversation within 2 dates, like we're talking and discussing those things because that's the page we're on. And there was like no hesitation. He's white as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and you'll find that, and also women that have children were more out to get married to women that have children than
Oh
black.
yeah.
Statistically,
He's
yeah.
ready to meet my daughter and like do it. I was like, and I really loved it. But yeah, you're correct. They're like, this is just one more person to protect, nurture, provide, and help flourish. Right? That's his mindset. Like,
Yeah, and that's not all. There are some white men. If you got children, you're going to find that. But usually, we're more. If the man loves you, he's more out to marry you if you got children or not. And that's not a bad thing, because in our society, it's better that children have a mother and father, even if that other person, the mother or father, is not your biological mother and father. It's still a good thing. I had a stepmother, and loved her, you know, and my parents' marriage didn't work out. They were teenagers, and I was a product of them having premarital sex, and my dad married my mom because of that, and it didn't work. But life goes on, and you can still, you know, make things work. And sometimes you don't have both your biological parents in your home, but that could still be a blessing. We shoot to have one marriage, and one marriage only, for life, forever. That's the goal. But sometimes that don't happen. We're all flawed people. Let's be honest.
take a detour every now and then.
Yeah, we do have our flaws, and sometimes we don't connect. And you can have two really good people that just aren't meant to be together. On paper, they look great, but you know, you either meant for each other or you're not. But yeah, but
Yeah.
all this, I was going to say what Lisa's telling you is stuff that works for her and ideas, and this is what this is about. When we talk, um, there's ways to approach. Is there a secret formula out there that just works? No. Um, some things work for some for don't work for others. Um, you know, and when I talk about this, I'm not a professional. I don't have a degree in marriage and relationships. I could tell you what's worked for me and my wife. And same thing for Lisa. What works for her when guys approach her? And I think
Mhm.
Lisa's got a positive personality. She seems like she'd be approachable.
Mhm.
Whether she likes you or not,
I'm gonna be
that's
nice to you. I'm gonna
yeah,
be absolutely lovely to you. Yep,
and,
ugly guys and the cute guys. And
yeah,
that's part of the second part of what I wanted to talk about as well.
yeah. And go ahead.
Okay, gosh, I just had a point I wanted to say about so Black men have always made it very clear that they're interested in me, right? And you, so it's very easy when dating Black men to like know they like you and to sort of fill the gap and go for it. And then I'm fine with white men. I find that I might notice their staring gaze, and sometimes I get the ones who will approach directly, but the other ones worked in this more subtle, after a few times we met, not putting them on the spot, understanding they don't want to be put on the spot, or like, so it's a very subtle conversation when everyone's busy and then we're talking and then the connection's made, that just doesn't put them out there. And I'll just say this for everyone who's listening. There's some of you guys who get approached and you have no problem, but there's a significant portion of Black women who do are having a hard time. And so if you're already sort of pretty good at it and you're getting your results, not, just take what you can and, even titty bit, but this is definitely for those who are having a hard time. And so what I really want to do is just go, they roll differently. So understand they don't want to put themselves out. Understand sometimes it's more subtle, but you can work within that subtlety because it's all a game, right? So if they want to be subtle, will you be subtle? So you don't say, I want your number because I want to date you. You're saying, well, I know you're not going to be out there, but I know if I make the connection, you'll definitely follow up on the lead. And so that's sort of what we're doing. And there's another part of that, like, did you have something to say, Brent?
Yeah. I just want to do a shout out. Miss Anita, hey, good to see you. Check out Miss Anita's channel. She's got a real nice channel, and she talks about a lot of different topics. So check her out at yours truly, Miss Anita. Good to see you, young lady. Haven't talked to you in a while. When I get some time, I'll go check out your channel and stuff. And everybody that I follow, I haven't been following nobody for a while. I've just been so busy, but I just wanted to give Miss Anita a shout out. Real nice lady, got a great channel and stuff. But thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming in the chat. And it's good to see you. Yeah.
And so and then I want to also go what I've learned just personally for navigating the friend group, as you like to say, make friends with Becky. That's an art form too, because that's not always easy, right?
Yeah.
So I have found this is what works for me. And a lot of it goes me being in my feminine energy when it comes to white women. When I'm in my feminine energy around white women, they are so much more relaxed and comfortable. Whereas before they would just sort of just pull back and sort of just watch. And I'm being the same person, but it was just different. And so I just want to talk about some of the things now that I am more in my feminine energy, what I do and how that looks. Like being in your feminine energy, you're more of an active listener. You're not a reactor. You let go of control. Like you're not trying to control things. You're just letting things go and letting things flow around you. You're listening a lot more. So if you go into a room, you're actively listening, actively asking them questions. And this wasn't something I was good at before, right? But as I sort of started this journey in that feminine energy, which is a thing, it's not I'm born a woman, I have feminine energy per se. It's a lot more to that. It's also trust and acceptance and letting things flow and not trying to force things on people. And that was a journey I made. But since I made that, I found it a lot easier to meet with Becky or with white women. And we're not necessarily close friends. We sort of, and like, don't think you need to be close friends. What we have is like a level of class and we're cordial. right?
Mhm.
A level of being cordial, a level of, understanding that this might be her hemisphere. And so I'm a queen, right? But sometimes you meet other queens, and like I can meet another queen who's a Becky and be like, this is your kingdom, I'm in it. You can
Queen
help.
Becky.
Well, I'm Queen Lisa, right? But
Yeah, there you go.
when I'm in her queendom, though, I just learned that, like, let them lead a little bit. I know it just might sound a little counterintuitive, but let them lead and let them like guide. And I found that when I just sort of relaxed and let go and just flowed, it's easier for them to, and a level of warmth and understanding. It has been easier for me. So like I said, more listening, less control, more acceptance, more just sort of being a little, I've just noticed softer in your approach, which is part of the feminine energy journey, divine feminine journey. I found it's been a lot easier now to make friends with Becky, especially Becky of a higher class than like maybe in my past. And it didn't start happening until I started sort of taking on that energy. So
Yeah.
you don't need to be their best friend, though. They understand it and you understand it. Now, I have one queen who I talk to, and she's funny. She has all these male friends, and we were cordial at first, a little distant, and then over time in that social circle, we got closer and closer because I noticed all of her friends were like just really attractive men. So I'm like, how does she have like 8 men like, at her table? Like, and
Yeah.
they'd all be 40s and half of them single, and they were attractive too. So I'd be like, oh man. And so we finally made it. Like, we're not friends, but I have her number. She has mine. I invite her to my daughter's party. She invites me to her karaoke party. And we're not friends, but I understand what it is. So I've gotten myself, because I sort of like eased in without trying to dominate and letting her lead. We've gotten to the point where she likes the fact that I have my own sense of fashion and style, and I might wear like a great perfume from Italy, and she'll smell it and be like, what's this? And I'm like, oh, I found this thing from Italy, because I travel and I sample things. So, I have sort of that repertoire. And she's an older woman who doesn't have it. And so she's just like, she likes that shine from this younger Black woman. Right. And I like the fact that she has a great network of attractive men. So,
Hey, that's a good point. You know, and here's the thing: you don't have to be besties and this and that, like Lisa
not
said.
at all.
But it's kind of like a trade-off.
Mhm.
Lisa might dress a certain way she likes.
Right.
She might have a certain style and say, "Whoa." She might, get something from Lisa. Lisa gets something from her. And look, don't be afraid of getting in that friendship circle with Becky, because Becky has Brad's in her friendship group in her family. Um, I've been attracted to Black women, and you don't think I had a few Tyrones that were my friends and get access? Sure. I mean, nothing wrong with that. That don't mean you have to turn into, you know, you get with Becky, don't mean you have to act like Becky and try. And same thing with the guys. If you're friends with Black men, hey, where are the Black women at? Around Black men, right? That don't mean you have to act like them and try to procreate the culture. Just be yourself and be strategic.
Be strategic. Like, I didn't
Yeah,
just choose, like, I have white women friends, don't get me wrong. But like the ones I wanted to was the one that had all the men around her, right?
yeah,
If you see it, and especially, and that's why I really like the community group. Like, find a social community group, not just like a social community group that comes around and they talk. Uh, yeah, you got it. The one Kevin Satchel in exchange.
yeah. There you
Listen,
go.
she steals all of my millennial culture. She's about 20 years older. And so I show up a certain way, right? We travel. I'm learning French. I'm going to Quebec. I have a certain thing, I'm on the front edge. She sees it and she likes it because she's an older woman. She has a younger husband than her. And she wants to stay up to date too and fashionable. And I'm like, this is what you do. And she invites me. So yes, and I don't mind that because strategically she has attractive looking friends. Okay. So that's who you want. She cultivated that. That's her little queendom. Her queendom, she cultivated a large gathering of attractive men in my age range who are single. Okay. So that's her queendom, and she knows it. So she doesn't just let anyone in. So when you're out in these social groups, which I really recommend, like, that's so easy. Like, it's such a nice playing ground for you to be like, just do, boom, target. Okay, let's go. How do I, you're not going to like this word. Ingratiate yourself. So you're not gonna like this word, but you're not friends. Like you don't have to be besties, although you will be friendly, right? You will have an
Yeah.
acquaintance and be friendly, right? There's no negativity or animosity. But like learning, okay, how can I do that? Because that circle would be so nice to be a part of. So how do I get her to, how do I approach? How do I start the connection? How do I let her know, hey, I'm here in peace and I'd love to just get to meet you? Right. And like you see, that's a really soft approach. I find that works with white women. You can do whatever you want. I'm not with New York white women. White women in New York are different. They got an edge. They're a little harder, a little upfront, a little direct, right? Because they're in New York. I'm in
Yeah.
Virginia. They're soft down here. They're starting to become more of those Southern belles. Okay. It's different and you have to approach them different. So if you're in the South or Southern ish areas, it's going to be different than when I'm out west. I don't have to do all this. I don't have to be mature or be in my feminine energy because everyone's equal out there. We're all integrated. If you're a cool person, that's all you need. Northeast, it gets a little different, but I feel it's the same. It's just if you're in the Southern. So like once you learn all these things, I think it'll be easier for Black women to sort of exit out and start navigating it a little bit more effectively and strategically with that. Yeah, and that's the first part I wanted to go over. If anyone has any questions or thoughts or insights.
Yeah, I want to interject on that and what she's talking about, where people are more open to dating. I remember when in the military, I was stationed out in California, and it was more open to interracial dating. It was like, to me, this was great. It's like you didn't have to work as hard, you might say. You can be in an interracial relationship anywhere, but in California, it's more open. It's more of a norm. They just do it, and it depends on the town you're in, the community. If you're in a diverse community with Black people, Asian, Hispanic, it seems easier to interracially date because these groups have grown up together as children to adults, and they're more accepting of each other than if you're in just a solid Black community or just a white community. And it's not that those people won't care for you, they just don't know a lot about you. There's a lot of stereotypes, there's a lot of misconceptions, that you got to battle through. And just think, if you're a white person and you've never been around much Black people, but you see, women in movies or the stereotype, you might think that's how they are, and it's not how they are. And vice versa. You might think white people are just racist weirdos that just want to go around fetishizing every woman they see. And that's not true. There are some out there that fit that description, but you get to know people, you find a lot of those stereotypes don't fit. And what is a stereotype? It's something people create to make another group look bad. That's basically what it is. And but yeah, I just wanted to say that.
And I'll finish up with the white women by just saying, find your value, bring your value to that group. It can be hard a little bit making like real decent friends with white women. I find for me, actually, it wasn't as smooth when I left the West Coast to come to more of the South, but it can be done. I've just noticed out here, it's when I have a softer energy that it's a lot easier and a lot to make the connections, get the numbers, and start getting invited. So I'll just put that out there for those who are out there. If you're doing fine, that's not a big deal. But like I said, sometimes the white woman that isn't the white woman with all the friends, right? So if it's the one with all the male friends, well, learning how, like, you don't have to be their friends, just sort of, bring a value, get the value. Doesn't have to be that deep. You're both working, you're both like exchanging something, and it's subtle, but like you'll figure it out as you start this process. But that really, really helps supercharge it to like sort of make connections that normally you would just sort of stand off on the side and not get brought into the fold for it. But once you're in the fold, men, they love dating within the circle, right? Like everyone loves dating within the circle, but I've noticed with white culture, I like, oh, you brought a new girl? What? She a friend? Like once they get in and they pass that barrier of whoever invites them, because I find that they gatekeep just a tad bit more than our community does. But once you get it, that's where they like to date from, like the friend group, the person who's invited to all the parties. That's their ground. And so that's why learning this art, it has been really effective.
And think about it. If you've talked to this young lady, you know who she is, she's talked to you just casually, it's much easier to approach than if you just see her for the first time. You know, you already know her. She already knows who you are. So it makes it more comfortable. And being in that friendship group and there's a black woman in there, and I'm telling you, guys' eyes are going to turn and say, "Whoa, who is this? She's a little different." You know, different does attract. You know, they say opposites attract. It does. Black women have a different, you know, they have a unique beauty to them, and white men will notice this. And if they feel comfortable with you, they'll approach. And I would say one thing that I would tell the guys, you know, white men are going to approach when they feel more comfortable when you're alone. But I would say to guys, sometimes it pays off to be bold. And when she's around her friends, just to go and do it, approach. You will blow her mind that you had the nerve to just come up and talk to her. You know, you do it, you know, with love and respect, but she'll say, wow, it tells something about you, like you go for what you want no matter what. Now, if there's a guy next to her, don't be stupid, because that could get you in trouble. But if she's with their friends they're all women, approach. Because if she's not interested, her friend might. And something about that, I think women like men that just go for what they want. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think so.
No, well, I've always been so kind to men who approach, even if they're not my type. Just because they had the courage to do it, you know, because you spend a lot of lonely nights when they don't. So I've always made sure to let them know I appreciated it. And so that's the other part that you just brought up. So yeah, find a community, preferably one that you're good in, or you attract attention because you're good in, but like you got to start. And even if nothing happens from it, you at least get a nice new social group. And I'm introverted too. You can do it once or every 2 weeks, right? Like I do it multiple times a week, but you can do it once every 2 weeks and you start developing friendships. And that's pretty cool too. Because I know sometimes we can be a bit isolated. But on top of that, you said when they're alone, they're going to approach you. So this is the second part, and it's going to be a little different for some of you guys. You might not follow the advice, but some of you might. When I'm out, I'm in a certain energy that attracts men, right? And I want to go into that a little bit. So some of these things you're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And some of them you're like, no, I'm not going to do it. So first of all, I generally go out by myself. I travel by myself. I go out to myself. I go to karaoke. Karaoke is a bar, but it's like you're in the restaurant area. So, you know, there's things I do by myself. And because of that, I feel that's why I get approached way more often than other women. But it's how I show up too. And I know right now in the Black community, a lot of Black women are scared that, you know, there's like sex traffickers and, you know, something, you know, just they're scared to go out by themselves. Right. And that is to your discretion. I'm very spiritually protected. Before I leave this house, I draw on every spiritual like prayer to cover me in protection. And I'm alive long enough to know that that works. And it has worked because there's been situations I called in that help and definitely arrived. So I have so much faith and trust in that. I can go out by myself, but I don't leave my house without invoking like those prayers. So I feel comfortable going out by myself because that's my spiritual protection right in place. But because of that, I go and I dress up. Like I tell people, you know, I don't get like a fully dressed up, but I am freshly showered, got my nice perfume. I like Ralph Lauren Romance. Ralph Lauren Romance or like Aqua di Gio, like the ocean spray for spring. Those are my two favorite scents. And I coat it on. So I'm in this cloud. I wear dresses. I wear heels. I found these comfortable heels. I wear 9 West iFlex, super comfortable heels. I can wear them for 8 hours a day. Or I wear heels from Torrid, right? Which is a clothing boutique store. So I can wear these heels all day and not be uncomfortable. So I have my dress, I have my heels. I found my fashion. And this is something I think I actually had to find my fashion and it took a little bit. And like, that's our job as women. And some of us have done that and some of us haven't. But if you're going to start this search, you're going to do so much more if you take the time to do it. And I know I didn't in the past. So that's what I'm saying it to the women who have not. Like I got like books on fashion. It was like, oh, there's American classic, there's Bohemian, there's this, there's that, there's like British, da 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 da. And I was like, oh my gosh, I like Bohemian and American Classic. That's it. My whole wardrobe fits me really well because I look good in pencil skirts because I have a very curvy figure. Pencil skirts are great and they have to go below the knee. Like I have these things down. So whenever I go out, it is like in my best presentation. And I take the time to do that. So me going out isn't to like a fancy event. It's literally like well, going to a karaoke event or go. That's like my whole pastime. Like I just go to different places. So I'm sorry I keep saying that, but like whatever your event is. So say you're a runner, say you're this. Like, you know, do the fashion, do that. And I have my makeup on. And this is the other part. So my looks are like, oh, she's sort of dressed up nice for a regular restaurant. Okay. So that is attractive to the eye. That is attractive to white men, right? It's attractive to all men because when I go out like this, black and white men notice and, you know, they'll try to get my attention and smile, right? But the other part that actually gets people to approach, and we have to talk about this, is and you've heard me say this before, I'm open to people. And not everyone can do this. So it takes a level of confidence to be open to people. And what I mean by that is like when I go out, I might be by myself, but I smile and say hi to the person at the bar next to me. I smile and say hi maybe to the doorman as I'm greeted. I'm enjoying myself. Generally, there's music playing and I'm singing along, I'm dancing, and I'm by myself. So with that energy, and I'm talking to different people or at least acknowledging and saying hi, right? And I'm in safe environments. I will say that there's different parts of towns that you can go to, right? So I go to parts of town I feel safe in. With that being said, the other part is because I'm so genuinely friendly to people. Now, I'm also an introvert. So when I go out, I sort of prepare all my energy to sort of go out and like, I'm not being charming per se. I'm being open and friendly to everyone. And I find that like there's men who are attractive and men who are not attractive. I'm nice to both. But when you're nice to the unattractive men in the bar, they notice that. And then when you go sit down by yourself, they're going to feel more comfortable talking to you because they saw when that ugly guy came up or whatever, or non-attractive, whatever, they saw how you very politely smiled in his face, into his eyes, listened to him, had a small conversation, learned how to end the conversation really well. And then they saw that. And so honestly, I think that interaction more than anything will have men approaching you. So now we're going from this is how you make the connection to this is how you'll attract them. Looking nice, but also showing that you are pleasantly happy to speak to everyone and treat everyone with charm and genuine interest. And that in itself, like if you were shy as a guy, that is like, wow, I think I feel very comfortable going up to this nice woman. I feel like it's going to be, if nothing else, a nice conversation, but they're so comfortable. If they're interested in you, they'll definitely go for it. So I found that like, that's how I get more consistent results. But I am showing up in an energy of warmth, acceptance, right? That's a divine feminine energy, is acceptance, not judging you. Everyone is a person who will be equally treated with charm and warmth by me. And this is like a higher level. Not everyone's at this point because people are shy. They're not comfortable being open. But if you get to this level, you'll get consistent results because that is attractive. Like, because you're creating a container, a space of energy of if they enter your field, they are going to be treated with love, right? Even if it doesn't turn into anything. And that's when I find I get more men who like actually attract me, will come up to me and I'm generally by myself and talk to me and like follow through.
Yeah. A lot of good points. I think there's a question. While interracially dating, have you found white men are drawn to slimmer women, or at least average size ladies? I think that's a perception. I'll let you answer this, but I want to say this about this. Okay, there's a misconception that white men like black women that have no butt and a big chest. I hear this all the time. And I don't want to get into the physical, but we love black women because you are black women. We love you because of your shape, how you look, how you carry yourself, your personality, the love you have. We love black women. And those of us that love black women, we don't want you to look like a white woman, or we would be with a white woman. All right? So let that sink in your mind, okay? We love black women because you are black women. And for me, I love everything about a black woman. I don't want her to look like a Becky, or I would be with Becky, okay? So there's a lot of misconceptions that you got to be super skinny. No, no, no. Now, there are some men that want women that are like that, but most of us just like how you are, ladies, okay? And we're just men. We're not. Some people got a misconception that white men, you got to look a certain way and that's it. I believe that black men are more picky with you than white men are. I believe that to be true
I agree with
because
that.
because black men have access to you, okay? Because there's more of you. For us white guys, we got to prove ourselves. We got to prove we're not a fetishizer, that we're not racist, that we love you and want to understand you, and we got to prove. Think about it. We're vetted much more, and maybe that's why our relationships work better because we got to earn your love. And I'll tell you this: we appreciate it, and we look at it as a blessing. You give us what's that word? Um, gosh, you give us access, right? And we feel good about it because we don't look at you as we have access to you. Does that make sense? It's not like, you look like us, so you should date us, sort of say. I'm not saying black men do this, but a lot do. I'm just going to say this, but white men, we feel you don't really like us, so if we have a chance, we got to prove that we're good men. And we appreciate, you know, that you allow us to have access to you. We look at it as a blessing more than it's supposed to be that way. Does that make sense? That's the way I always looked at it, you know. Um, and it feels really good to get love from black women more so than white women. You know why? Because we don't expect it. We think you don't like us. I mean, generally, we know some do, but the perception's there because we always hear that black woman that makes it clear that it's black men and that's it.
Right.
So we see those images, and but I think we appreciate black women more. I know I do. Um, you know, so I wanted to put that up there. We've been on almost an hour.
I did want to respond to the question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So, so because of the length of time I've been dating, I went from a size 18 to now a 14. It equals out. So at 18, I had, and I had the pictures then, right? That was like a year and a half ago. I still got men, right? It was different quality of men. They were a bit heavier too, but I still got white men trying to talk to me. And as I went down, I just got more matches, right? So maybe I'd have 20 matches, but now it was like 80, right? Like, 4 times as much when I lost, a couple of dress sizes. So I find that it equals out because you find people who are equally yoked to you. So I just lost 5 pounds this week. So I am trying to go for 25 more pounds because for me, that gets me to a size 10, which is my ideal. I don't want to go smaller than that. I don't want to be a 6. I'm cool at 10. I love that size on me, college size. And so that's what I'm going towards. There is an awareness that you do get a wider match. Now, the quality of men is just the quality of men. It's a little different, I found, as you slim down, but you still get people at every step of the way. I don't think it's a bad thing if you want to focus on weight loss. Most of us do look better and feel better when we lose weight. So I am a little bit more aggressive on it right now just to lose the last 25 pounds. But I just know that there are benefits to it, not just amongst men, but yourself and society. So you get treated differently. If you want to do a weight loss thing and do it for yourself and you do get treated better. There's studies on it. So it's not bad, but do you need to be thin in order to get the attention or attract a white man? No, you usually find one who's sort of equally yoked to you. That's what I found.
Yeah. And I will say this, I when it comes to weight and stuff, do it for health reasons. Do it for you. Um, there are very attractive women that are plus size, and black women do it better than any other women. You know,
A
um,
black woman who's a little bit, I don't know. I
it,
feel a bigger black woman has a bit of an edge over bigger white women
they do, they
for a
do.
white guy,
I,
right? Because
I,
it's really different.
and maybe I'm biased, but yeah, black women do. Jess, thanks for the super chat. She says, Brett, do you think that white men see the difficult situation black women are in right now and that some will exploit it? Okay, yes. I'm going to say yes. There are some white men that see this and they will exploit it. Okay. All right. So always be aware of that. And you don't want to, when you're getting to know somebody, you don't want to let them know struggles you're going through because men will manipulate. They will use that to their advantage. Okay. So um, I think most white men that want to date black women do it because they love black women, but there are some that will exploit it.
Mhm.
Um, you know, all men will exploit. There are men in every group that will. Yes, there are white men that do this. Yes. So, but you got to, be strategic. Make sure you get to know him and the love is true. Because when the love is true, then you can, explain some of the stuff you go through. And you might learn about him, some of the things he struggles with. You don't want to put that on the table when you're in a new relationship because they will exploit that. Black men exploit black women because they want to get married and have a relationship. They'll use that, make them think. Well, white men do it too. They see black women, their marriage rates are low. They see that there's more black women than black men. They see the divestment community going over and dating other men. They see people observe, okay?
Yeah, they
And
do.
they will. So you got to be on your guard with this, okay? And you know, you don't have to check him and make sure he understands the struggles you go through. You don't need to do that right away. You got to know this is the right guy that you can trust before you do that. And I know a lot of black women say, well, the white man's got to understand the struggle I go through. He's got to and look, he's not going to because he don't know you. He don't know what you go through. We look at things through a different lens and it don't mean he don't care. It just he doesn't know. And there are black men that know the struggle you go through and they don't care. I'm going to be honest. And it takes more than knowing what you go through. You got to also care. So don't try to put that on the man right away because you're going to scare him off. He's going to say, okay, great. I'm not good enough anyway. What am I doing? And he might really have love for you and you might be attracted to him. So let the relationship develop. But yeah, there are white
They're
men that
looking.
will
They're watching.
exploit this. Yes.
Mhm. If you
Okay.
allow it. If you allow it.
Yeah.
And just one last part to this segment before we open it up. I wanted to talk about online dating.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people have issues with it, but it's a skill set just like everything else. And I got some tips on. I like it for interracial dating because the white men have no problem doing it on the app because it's private, no one's seeing them. So, but they're still trash, right? So there's still trash in every community who want to use you. Just
Mm-hmm.
remember that. It's up to you to not allow yourself to be used. So I'm just going to give you some tips that have helped me to just really cut through the bull and just get to the date with someone who's of quality very quickly. So you're going to get a lot of options on dating apps. So I would say first on your profile, go ahead and look at your profile and when you're listing, so make it attractive to the person you want. So when you're listing your thing, so there's things I like to do. I like knitting. I like sewing, but I didn't put that on my dating app. You need to find the things that other men like too. So they like the fact that I'm converting a van and I converted it for van life, right? They're just like, wow, what's this, right? So of all the things that you like to do, put on your app things that like correspond to what men like too. And some of those are really obvious. If you say watercolor and water painting, which probably none of you guys do, but if you do, that's not so much as you're like, well, I play the piano. Okay, that sort of has cross masculine appeal because they might play the piano, right? But or they'll know of it and it's an interesting thing. So like when you're making your profile, try to find the skills you have that have male appeal. You'll just do better because then they're like, "Oh, well, I like that too." Whereas if you if it's some obscure, this one woman, she put like she likes well, this isn't bad, but she was just talking about physics and astrophysics, which is, I mean, it's going to be a certain set. But for most person who is like not specifically in that niche, it's like, I don't know if we're going to have anything in common. And she didn't want it super specific. She was just saying things she was interested in. So just be really discerning on doing that. And the other thing, I always tell them, men just want to use women. It's just what they're doing. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of you guys allow it and it's not what you want, but you're allowing it because you're scared to chase them off, but you need to be happy to chase them off if they're not. So in my profile, I put, I want marriage and more children. First questions they ask, do you want marriage? Do you want children? And some other ones. They say no. Okay. And if they say yes, which about 1 in 4 do, then I'm really quick to be like, all right, let's video chat, because I used to go on dates, but I don't do that anymore. I'm like, let's video chat, because you can tell if you like someone over video chat. So like, here's my WhatsApp, or we do it directly in the app. If a lot of guys, when you say, oh, well, let's video chat or meet, they disappear. So they were going to use you. They just wanted, men will have a whole fantasy text relationship with you, and that fulfills them. It doesn't fulfill you, but it fulfills them. So just understand, if you allow it, they'll waste your time, but I don't allow it. I'm like, you either get on the phone and disappear. Well, then bye, because then I don't waste my time investing in this texting relationship with someone who is never, ever going to do anything in the first place. He just wanted to use my energy to feed off. You got to remember, they're feeding off your energy. He just wanted that. And there's so many women who allow it. So I wish some of you guys would stop and just put the kibosh on it and be like, no, let's do this. But like, there's ways for you to just like quickly get them from here to this to a date, be it coffee or sit down. So don't, if you're really if you want an interracial date, like online dating is where it's at, because it's where I've met 2 of my suitors over the last 2 years, right? Through an online app. It's just a connection point, but just be discerning, hurry them through the process. And if they hurry with you, that means they're serious and they weren't just trying to use you. I find a lot of people like, I hate dating apps. It's overwhelming, but they spend their time on men who weren't serious because they're not putting any parameters in place to make sure their time's not being used up. And if you do that, you're not going to get your time wasted, and you're only going to talk to men who were actually interested in finding a long-term relationship. So that'll be the easiest, and I think especially in the South, because I can imagine if I went further than South Carolina to date interracially, I just find it probably be very challenging. So definitely for all parts of the country, it helps, and that's how you can just quickly cut through the BS. And I would say all those, if you incorporate all of these, like, it is possible to constantly get high quality men who actually like you and want you, and be able to establish those connections, and it not feel so awkward for those that might feel awkward with. So that's sort of it. If anyone wants to come up and share what's worked for them for making connections.
Okay, awesome. Good points, Lisa. Yeah, the dating thing, it seems like the easy thing, the dating apps. Now, I've never done this. And look, last time I went on a date was 1993. And that was with my wife. So I don't know what it's like to be dating these days. But you know, it might be something to look into. But find out the good sites, and ask people how they've had success. But you got to be careful. They will exploit you. They will use it as a thrill.
Just try to use your energy.
Yeah. And to me, that would be a wasted time. I mean, but
I find a lot of that. They had no intentions of going further than just a fantasy text relationship.
And maybe that feeds their ego. They have this attractive woman that's interested in them. Oh, well, yeah, look at me. It might be something dumb like that, but people are weird like that. They are.
Yeah, they like it.
Yeah. Jess, thanks again. Jess says, and thank you for the super chats, Jess. She says, I met my white ex-husband online, and he was abusive. Okay. I'm praying to God now. Online can be dangerous because the barrier of entry is low. Okay.
Everything's dangerous though. Like there's a lot of
Um,
people who are with abusive spouses that they met in person. So like
yeah,
everyone.
you got to be careful. I've never done the online dating thing. I've heard horror stories of it.
I love
I've
it.
heard I've heard women say they found their husband and been married for several years doing it. So, um, I just say if you do it, be cautious. Well, any relationship, if he approaches, be cautious. Even if he's in your local community church that you've known your whole life, you got to be cautious. Ladies have standards. Uh, vet, okay. Um, Me, I've never done the dating thing. When I was dating, it was there, but most people didn't do uh dating agencies and stuff like that. And here's another thing too. There are men that use this for a hookup. Okay, and I remember back in my time in the army, I had a friend that was in the army. He says, "Oh, this is great. This dating online." He says, "I've hooked up with all these women," and I'm like, "Hey, you're going to be faced with that also. So be careful. There are men that'll use that just to have a sexual relationship with ladies. Okay, there are men out there that just want that, guys, and there's women too, but usually it's mostly men. And these dating sites, I've heard people say it's mostly there's more men on them than women. Okay, I don't know if that's true. That's what I hear. Um, but just be careful. Okay, and I'm not going to say it's a good idea or a bad idea. Me personally, I think approaching in person, it's to me is more personal. You see what you get in a way. You actually have a conversation face to face, and you know, but not saying it can't work. There's been women that email me say, "Hey, I did the dating thing. It works. It's great."
Mhm.
But they'll also say that they've had weirdos, that will say that they're someone they're not, or put on a, you know, give you a wrong picture of who they are. And
That's
also,
why I do the video chat very quickly.
yeah, and that's probably best because look,
I've
I
been
could go,
catfished.
I could go on a dating site and I could put my picture when I was 25 years old,
Hmm.
and I will get more hits than I do a picture I put now at 53. But people do that, and so be aware of that too. They're always going to present their best look. Okay, they're always going to present their best personality. They're great, they're wonderful, they're attractive, but when you meet them, they might not fit all that. Okay, so you know yeah, and it's easier, and this I think presents a misconception. I think people miss out on a real love connection when they do these dating apps, because they'll see, oh, I got 25 hits. These women, oh yeah, makes you feel good, right? Are they really into you, or did they just like your picture and it maybe it's a good angle of you? Maybe they see you, they're not so much, or maybe they talk to you, they're not really interested. So don't let that. That's why I like the personal thing, and maybe the video chat, that's more real than.
I did that for a couple reasons. A, because I've been catfished, and he did have a picture of him when he said, "Oh, I'm 42." He was 56.
Yeah,
So I'll video chat before I meet for dinner, so I'm not embarrassed again. And two, it shows who's serious or not. And the men who actually became suitors, they were like, "Whoa." They were a little nervous, but they did it. And so that really cuts down on the people who just want to use you and aren't really interested in anything serious. They just want cute pictures of cute girls to text and to flirt with.
yeah, yeah. um Pro white leadership, you dropped off. I don't know what, but you could come up. Sorry, I'm getting winded here. But if you guys want to come up and join the panel and give us some of your advice, and I think ladies'
And tips that work.
advice advice and tips from other ladies, I think, is more beneficial than me telling you what I think. Um, you know, and men are different. Look, I dated black women back when I was 16, back in the early 80s, okay? And that's who I was attracted to. Okay? Not most men are not like me. Most men just like, stay with their own racial group or just will date anybody they think's attractive. A lot of men, it don't matter as long as they feel comfortable with you, they're attracted to you, your personality. Um, so you got to think about that too. So if I tell you what I like in black women that really turns me on, that really impresses me, the other guy that might not be his story.
Right.
You,
All
you
men are
know,
different. So it's like,
yeah. What I think's exactly what I think's attractive, he might think something else is. We're all different, and because we look alike, we're very different. And white people, I'm telling you, we are so different. It's not even funny. Even within our own family dynamic, me and my brother are totally different.
I do feel women should get advice from other women because of that. Because at the end
Yeah,
of the day, if you give me advice and I follow your advice and I go in a room, like that's advice for you. But I feel women should just prevent themselves in the best lights and let themselves be attractive. And the person who likes that will choose you, right? Like it's a different energy. Like you're just doing yourself and letting who likes that come to you to like choose you. You know what I mean? Versus like, well, this one guy told me this, I'm going to try this, but it might just be that one guy's thing. One guy like butts, one guy like, breasts, one guy
yeah,
likes brunettes, one likes blonde. So to me, like getting advice from one person is like, well, it doesn't like one man as a woman. It's just like, well, that's just his thing, right? Like you just have to present yourself the best. That's what I think.
yeah. And let me say this too: when we talk about body shapes and what's attractive, there's certain things that are attractive to me. But if they're a black woman you know that has a great personality, that's you know, fun to be with, easy to talk to. She don't have to fill those requirements that I'll find her attractive just the person she is. So yeah, I might like this, but that don't mean I'm going with this. Does that make sense? I might be attracted to her shape, but she might not have it, but I'm going with her because I feel comfortable. I feel true love. So don't get caught up in that stuff. If he says he likes braided hair and a curvy shape and you don't have that, but he might get to know you and pick you because of who you are, you know, how you carry yourself. He might like it that you're traditional, that you believe in the family dynamic. He might like how you carry yourself professionally. And black women, this is what makes you very attractive is uh the way you carry yourself professionally. A professional black woman is very attractive. A traditional black woman is very attractive. That's what really that's what really makes me fall in love. The traditional black woman, I'm in love. I mean, and she don't have to be a knockout. She can just be an everyday woman, but what the love and character she has is what's attractive. That's what really made me fall in love with black women. It wasn't just how they look and they're attractive. No, it's what's inside. It's their character, the love they have, the nurturing they have. You can't tell me there's another group of women that loves men better than black women. And I'm telling you, that's from the physical to the mental to the emotional to the spiritual. Hands down, black women have that. And I believe over all women. And not to tear any woman down, because women are beautiful of all racial groups and ethnicities, but there's something special about black women. And I'm telling you, ladies, use that to your advantage and do not ever settle for less. Don't ever date or marry down because you'll never be happy and he will never be happy. The man naturally wants to lead. The woman naturally wants a man that loves her, uplifts her, and protects her and provides. That's just natural. That's nature. Okay? And you really don't want to deviate from nature. Okay? Me being a middle class, blue collar white guy, If I was going to get in a relationship, it would be a woman at my level or a bit below. Why? That way I can provide. And she will cling to that
Yeah.
because she's dependent on me. Now, if I get with a woman that's, has more money and more assets than I do, it can work. There's always an exception, but I wouldn't feel right. I wouldn't really feel like a man because I can't do nothing for her. Does that make
Right.
sense? And
Yeah. I
yeah.
have a story about that. The last guy that I was telling you, the one who wanted, he was already talking about marriage with me.
Mhm.
I sort of have my act together, financially, this or that. And so before me, he's been with women who needed him. He was the
Mhm.
provider and he loved being needed, right? He
Mhm.
loved being like the hero. And I was
Yeah.
talking to him and I was like, that's what you're used to. And that's what you love. You want to be the person who's like, you come to me, I get things done. I take care of you and everyone in this house. But it was like, you're not going to get that as much with me. Like, because I have my stuff together. Like,
Mhm.
you're,
Yeah.
you're, but with these other women, that's your past, because we've, spoken about all his past sexes. I was like, you need that. And that was part of my decisioning as well, because like, you're not going to be the hero with me like you are with these other women who were, you said,
Mhm.
at or below. I'm sort of above. So it's like, even though he makes more money than me, which is really good, but still, like, what having your
That's always good.
right, but still, but like mentally and emotionally, like, I don't need him. Like, I know how to navigate. Honestly, he came to me for advice or perspective. Um, and it's something that I think women need to be aware of. Men need to feel needed. And like,
Mhm.
there has to be some way you found for that. But I know that was part of the reasons of why I was like, I don't think this is going to work long term, because it works for now, but long term, you're not going to feel like the hero that you do with these other women, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and that means a lot. It really does because you're providing, and she gravitates to that. So it feels good, and you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to. Um, but it's okay to be with a woman that's successful. My wife's successful, and that's okay. But it's nice to be a little bit above financially, because you feel like the leader. You feel like you're providing. And when you got that as a man, you feel good. You go to work, you work hard, you come home, you're sore at the end of the day, and you come home to your wife, she gives you a hug, and my wife will do that, and she'll say, "Thank you for what you do." She'll just say it. Um, she don't have to. I know she's thankful that I work hard and that I provide, but it feels good to feel that love and appreciation. And this comment here, thank you, Brent, for saying that. What do you think about older women in the dating pool? Okay, older women. Um,
I have my thoughts on that too.
yeah, I would say older women. Okay, look, dating and marriage. I don't believe it has an age acceptance in there. I would say you're best being within your age group, because you got more in common. Okay, you could be a few years apart, and some people have married 20 years apart and say it works, and it can. For me, the woman has to be, for me, at my age group, or she could be a little bit older. I'm just kind of weird this way. A woman that's a couple years younger than me, I just feel like, I don't know, maybe it's a psychological thing. I feel like, I don't know, feel kind of weird. I'm okay with women being older. I always have, but younger, not so much. Now she could be a couple years younger. That's fine. But I've always liked women that are a bit older, and they always have been. My wife's the closest to my age. She's like 10 months older than me. We were born the same year, but for me, uh, and if I was single, I would be with a woman that's a little bit older than me. I don't know. It's just me. That's just me. Um,
That's what
not
I
saying
found.
not saying I won't go for someone younger, but that's just me. Um, but I don't think there's an age to it. I've seen people get married, in their 60s and 70s. Some are widows and they come together in marriage. I've seen interracial marriages come together with older people in their 50s, 60s. At church, they never been in an interracial relationship, but they develop a friendship, a relationship, and they get together, they get married, and they love each other. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. To me, it's not so much. I hate this where people say you got to stay within your group, you got to stay within your race. No, you need to be with someone that you know that wants the same things you do, that has love and interest that you do, that has the same goals, I would say. And it can be, they can look different than you, they can be in a different racial group. Okay. But age, hey, it's never too old to date or get married. And I would say dating, use that for marriage. It should be courting, in my opinion. I'm traditional that way. I think, we need to spend more time trying to find a wife than a girlfriend. We need to get married instead of being fiancés forever. I always found that to be crazy. You're together for several years and then finally get married, even though you had kids and lived together all these years. But that's me. Um, but yeah, I mean,
When I'm seeing a lot of the older women date, and some of the men I date are the older women. I
mhm,
find if like the older woman sort of keeps herself up, she's doing fine, but is sort of generally dating younger men, which is I think fine as well. Like who really appreciate like their emotional maturity, growth, like their financial status. Like these younger men really are coming for older women. Like the last two marriage
mhm.
proposals I got this year from younger men. I'm 40. They were in their 30s. So I'm finding they're doing fine. If they keep themselves up, I find they're fine. I do tend to notice they're dating younger men, but that's fine too. These younger men are bringing it. I'm also noticing that they do really well in the friend group. So the older people I'm around, because I roll with a diverse crowd, I'm seeing the older women date, but they're dating within that friend circle we were talking about.
Mhm.
So that's where I find that they do like it's a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah.
Just my
And
opinion.
and the friendship thing can be, it can make it easier to transition into dating. Like I said, it I think it's best to know the person you're dating before you go there. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you got to approach and ask her out, and it'll be like taking her to lunch or hanging out somewhere, getting to know each other. Um, but it's nicer when you're in a friendship group because you already know them. And hey, hey, we hung out last week. Let's go have lunch, and
Yeah.
it's easier.
Yes,
And,
that's what
and
I'm noticing.
and she's not going to think it's weird. Well, she might, but usually she knows you. Okay, if she's interested, yeah, sure. If she's not, well, she might go have lunch with you and just be your friend, and that's okay. But it's easier to go there in that friendship group. Plus, you get to know people. And Becky, as your friend on the side, she might tell you the guys to stay away from. Yeah, he's good looking, but
They
you,
do.
he's not looking for a relationship. This guy, he is. He wants to get married and have
Mhm,
a family. He's
mhm.
he's got it together. He's got a decent job. He's good with his hands. He fixes things. You find out information like that, and
My
that's so.
Becky did that unsolicited. She's like, "Oh, that guy, he's not good. He was in jail." Da, 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 da. I didn't ask. She just volunteered. So you are so correct. They are so quick to be like, mm-mm, mm-mm, no,
And,
ma'am.
and ladies, a lot of ladies like to gossip. She might gossip about these guys, and you might find out some information. You know, just
My
saying.
Becky. I got a bunch of Beckys. They're all sweet, lovely women. But yeah,
Yeah, but I'm not saying just go make friends with Becky's off the, But hey, look, strategic, ladies, and,
strategically.
and guys too. Look, and I would tell men. There was a comment on there that said I should give advice to men, and I do. Um, and men are welcome to come on this panel too. Um, to give their advice to men, and I would tell guys, look, With black women, approach, you know, be a little bit bold, but be loving and respectful. Remember, you cannot approach a black woman like a black man does. You cannot do it. It won't work for you. It might look cool what he's doing, but it ain't going to work for you. You got to be different on this. You got to come with love and respect, because there's ideas that black women have about you guys that they think, you're a certain way, or you could be a certain way, and don't feed into that narrative. If you're at a distance staring at her and you don't make a move, she's going to think you're weird. She's going to be thinking you're lusting after her, and you might just be thinking, hey, she's beautiful. I wonder if would have a chance. It might be something innocent like that, but she's thinking, oh my God, he's looking at me. He's probably thinking of me with, how my body looks naked, and just stuff she's been told. But if you approach, she knows where you're at. And if you show a little love and respect, she might say, hey, this guy, it don't look like it looks like he's just trying to be nice and getting to know me. Think about that. Do not, don't waste your time with black women. Look, black women, they don't understand your culture, how you approach. And they don't want to waste time wondering if you're just trying to be a nice guy, a friend, or you're really interested in them. And I get this all the time. They'll tell me, okay, I got this guy at work. He looks at me. He's nice to me. But how do I know if he's interested? Step up and let her know your intentions. And then you'll find out. And then time's not wasted. If she kicks you to the curb, okay, she's not interested. Now you know. But if she's interested, bam. And I think about this. If I wouldn't approach my wife and I was nervous when I did, I wouldn't have 28 years of marriage. I wouldn't have 3 kids. I wouldn't have 2 grandkids. I wouldn't have an awesome family. I wouldn't have an awesome wife. And I think about that. And there was that time that night I approached my wife to where it was tough. I was fighting in my head to approach her. I was so nervous. But I just did it. And yeah, I stuttered. Yes, my words were fumbling around. I was thinking in my head, oh my God, I'm looking stupid. She thinks I'm an idiot. She's going to kick me to the curb. And guess what? She was interested. It worked out. So
there's a thrill when we come together.
There's
like a thrill. There's this like exploration more so than if they're like the same race. There's an exploration that takes place, I find, when I'm dating white men. There's just like, we're just throwing stuff out and just sort of filling each other out, but it's like a whole new world. It's like you're exploring a new territory or like a different planet. And so there's something to that because you're trying to see what we have, but like, if you're in the know, there's a reason when you once you start dating black women as a white man, you don't date anyone else. And there's a reason black women, once they date white men, don't date, like, they stay within that pool because, it's just, it's a rich pool. It's very rich. It's very rich, full of complexities, deep people. And it's just a bit of a thrill a little bit because you just don't know where it's going to go, or if you're going to hate each other, or there's so much uncertainty. It's a bit of a thrill a little bit and just finding it out. And then I'm always surprised, but I shouldn't be at this point, of how much we have in common and how much we see eye to eye and how much we can learn from each other. So when I date a white man, it's like there's constant growth on both sides. Like I'm learning things from him. He's learning from me. Maybe it's my business acumen. Maybe for him, I'm just learning how to read people better. But it's like this very interesting back and forth that I only really get with white men. And it's really cool. So that's why we keep going back to the well, right? Like you did, that's all you dated, and that's all I'm dating now, because there's something about it. And if you know, like we're in the know and other people aren't, and you're like on this platform telling people you guys are missing out. And I just have to say, like, yeah, no, it can be real fun and cool, like the exploration of each other a little bit more so if it was the same race.
Yeah, and you learn what makes her tick, what makes her happy, what is she like. It's something new, and it's like
foreign,
Yeah, and that is the excitement. And I'm telling you, even when I was dating through the years, it always made me feel good that black men are black men, black women, that were interested in me. It made me feel good. It made me, because psychologically we think that women that look like us are going to be the ones attracted to us, right? And that ain't true. That ain't, you know, it just, we got those barriers. And you know what? We make dating and coming together harder than it really has to be. It's just two people that, come together and date and find out they have stuff in common. They love being with each other. I've found that women that I have a connection with, I could talk with all night. That I
Right.
dated, that it wasn't that I wanted to talk. It just flowed.
Yes.
It was
Connection.
interesting. It
Mm-hmm.
just kept going on and on, and
Yeah.
just being with her, it felt right. It felt good. And there's been other women where it's like it's awkward. I don't know what she thinks, and I feel weird, and she thinks I'm kind of strange, and it don't go together. Um, that happens, but that's what dating is: getting to know each other, seeing if they're a good fit. And like I said, it could be two really great people, and it don't come together, and that's okay. But you're going to find that one that really connects with you, and it's going to be awesome. And with my wife, we connected. We're still connected. It's like it's weird. It's like we think the same things. Like, well, they say sometimes you finish each other's sentences. Me and my wife do it all the time. Like, we'll say something at the same time. Like, wow, why were you thinking that? And maybe it's just being together. We, the Bible says you become one, and you really do. You're almost like on the same wavelength. They said that they've done studies where people that are married for years or have relationships, that their heartbeats will synchronize together. They've proven that your heartbeats will beat on the same beat. And that's what life is. It's like we come together and we're on that same wavelength. We're connected in so many ways, and once you find that, look, that's what life's all about. And you know what? Having a good wife, a good family is a lot more valuable than being with a whole bunch of beautiful women, you might say. When you got that connection, you got true love, you truly have a blessing. And, we're finding that with black women, white men coming together. It's amazing. And yeah, it starts out with the curiosity, and there's a thrill there because we're different. But then when we get past that, we're finding out, hey, we're not so different. Hey, we want the same things in life. A lot of black women are very traditional. And I tell men, there's a treasure trove of black women out there that will make good wives. Some of them are single mothers, and that's okay. They're good women. Look, you know, maybe they got with a guy they thought was going to be there for them or marry them, and it didn't work out. It happens, but you could find a good wife. And if she's got a child, hey, you could help raise that child and have an impact on, the children, and they become up, good people. I mean, and I hate when men say, look, don't get with her, she's got children, I mean, because it's not your biological child. I mean, that's up to you, but you can be a blessing to them. And I've seen it, but anyway, I tell men that I say black women are that hidden treasure that are around us all the time. They're out there, and a lot of times we overlook them because we think they're not interested, or they're a little different, or I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. And one guy sent me an email. He says, you know what? I've always loved black women. He says, I'm in my late 60s, but I've never dated a black woman. Always wanted to, but I just didn't, I didn't know how my family would take it. Here's my thing. In the white community, look, men, we run things. One guy sent me a comment, and I'll share that with you down the road. But he says, I wish these black women would marry these white men, but I don't think the culture or white women would accept it. you know what I say to you? Black women are all over the place. They're in our communities. They're in the corporate world. Black women, they're going everywhere. They're opening up their options, not just dating, but with life. And look, in the white community, white men, we run things. We decide what we want. When I brought my wife into my family, let me tell you, the men in my family were okay with it. My grandmothers did not like it. But you know what? They had no say so. And even if the men in my family didn't like it, you know what? It's my turn. It's my life. I carry on the name and I decide. And I think that black women with white men do better in society, well, white communities, than biracial children with white women. You know, and I think the reason is because of how they're raised, the dynamic. You know, the values we have, and as white men, we don't stand for that. We're not going. But we do run the community. It don't matter what Becky thinks. I'm sorry. I love her. She's great and she's a princess. But when it comes down to it, we're the leaders and we say what goes. And if Keisha gets put on that pedestal, so be it. And you know what? Black women do not get treated any less than white women, because the women we marry are the ones we love, and that's the women that's put on that pedestal. And yeah, white men put women on a pedestal. Their wives, they do. That's in our culture. We just do it. So I just wanted to say that because there's a bit of confusion that black women that marry white men, that the community won't accept them. Yeah, they will. They have no choice.
One of the guys I dated was disowned.
Well,
just one. I'm just saying, and not to disprove anything you said, but I thought he was disowned, but I thought it cool. He was like, but you can't tell me who and what to do. And he was very comfortable with his decision. And he was like, yeah, well, you're not going to stop me. I love black women.
Yeah.
I want to marry them. I want to provide for them. So I actually thought it was cool. Unlike the person emailing you, like, I have a little bit of sympathy, but not much. I'm like, there are men who are willing to take it because they want it and they get the spoils of, like, the fortune favors the bold. When I hear things like that of the men emailing you quietly, I'm just like, well, I don't want to be mean, but it's weak. Like, come on. Like, you're not getting what you want because you're being weak. Like, we need masculinity. So we're traditional women, but we need masculine men, and masculine men go for what they want. It doesn't have to be in your face or direct, but if I'm dating someone who's like, I got disowned and I'm still doing it, like, there's levels of balls that it takes to date a black woman. And that's probably why relationships are so good, because we get the white men who have the balls to get disowned. We have the white men who have the balls to not care what their family think. We have the white men who have the balls to, like, go forward and be like, I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care if it's illegal. I'm doing it. And that might be why, because we get the strongest of the bunch. We don't get the weakest white men. Like, we get the ones who have the fortitude to withstand all of that, and they do it happily, right?
Yeah, and that goes along. You got disowned.
Black women, yeah.
Yeah. He got disowned, but guess what? He's still the leader in his community. His family might not want nothing to do with him because he's with a black woman. So what? He's starting his. Still respected. He starts his own family, and guess what? There you go. Right. It's changing, and look, there's going to come a time, I believe, here in the near future, I say give it 10, 20 years, there are going to be more black women married to white men than married to black men. And people will say, you're crazy. No way. Yes.
I think a year, Brent, because these men are proposing marriage within 5 weeks. Okay. So I'm just saying, I think it's going to be a lot sooner than 10, honestly.
Well,
I can't go out without seeing interracial couples now. When I go on dates, I'm like, oh, it used to be just me. Now there's 1 to 2 other couples like that. And that's a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and my wife talked about this because when we were dating back in, the early 90s, we got married in 94. It was like we were the only couple. we would once in a blue moon see another interracial couple. Now we see it all the time. We're seeing a lot of younger
Yes.
people in their 20s, even high school kids holding hands and out there like they're interracial couples. And
Happy
it's
as a
like,
clam. Happy as clams too.
yeah, and it's like, and that makes us happier. Like, oh, awesome, and it feels good to not be alone. It feels good that look, and looking at our marriage stats, how well they're doing, that feels pretty good, and I understand it. It's funny. My grandmother said, "You know what?" And it was crazy because all the grandkids, right, got married kind of around the same time, and she said that my marriage with my black wife wouldn't last more than 6 months, a year if we were lucky.
Mm.
And out of all of my family ended up in divorce. Some of my cousins ended up getting married multiple times. But you know what? I chose the black woman and I'm still married, still going strong. So, and they thought I would be the failure. It went the opposite. But I knew I had a good wife. I knew I was going to have a good marriage. And, I always said black women are the best choice. And people would laugh at me back in the day, but now they're not laughing. They're seeing the actual value in black women. I've seen it a long time, but other people are seeing it. And you know what's a beautiful thing? That now people are looking at black women as not being loud and crazy, like TV shows will show. They're looking at black women as very smart, intelligent, and they're seeing black women throughout America that are wealthy, doing awesome things in the corporate world, competing, and even competing with men. And we're starting to see
and holding their own too.
Yeah.
Holding their own.
And, I think black women are figuring it out, that they have more value than they ever thought they did. And they're finding out that, other men are attracted to them. And, they're finding out that other men really love being with black women. And what black women have shown is the love they have. And we've been saying black women are the most race loyal. And, recently I've kind of taken that back and I say, no, it's not that. I think black women are the most love loyal. When they love you, they give you everything. They pour their heart and soul into it. And if you're doing what you're supposed to as a man, you got it made. You really do. And I'm not saying all, because there are good and bad in every group, but collectively, black women are winning the day. Black women, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to, education in the corporate world, entrepreneurship, black women lead the way in all those groups. Seriously. And I've heard people say, some women say, well, when black men marry out, they get the same black man, right? I've heard that. Well, I will turn it the other way. When black women get with other men, we get the same black woman. The black woman that's loving, nurturing, and puts her heart and soul into it and loves you with everything. We're getting the same black woman that black men have. We're getting that beautiful, loving black woman. So, and that to me, that's character, and it shows. Because look, if you have character within your community, you're going to have it when you step out. When you marry a man within your community, you have that character and love. When you date out, you're going to have it. That don't change you. Character, you either have it or you don't. And with black women in the collective, they're doing amazing things. And I tell people, you don't get to know black women, you're really missing out. Because black women are that hidden treasure that walks amongst us. And tell me I'm wrong. I know there's black women that feel good that I'm saying that, say, oh yeah, you're right. But seriously, I would say to men, tell me if I'm wrong that you've dated black women. Tell me I'm wrong in this, that you're married to black women. You know I'm telling the truth. And you know what? Other racial groups know I'm telling the truth too, because the truth is surfacing. You know, and I'm not saying it because black women are my preference and I'm biased. Well, I am biased, but it's true what I'm saying, and that's why I am biased. That's why I've always wanted to be with black women. That's why I prayed to God to send me a black wife. And people say you're crazy. You're not supposed to do that. No, that's crap. You're supposed to be honest when you talk to God and ask him what you want.
Mhm.
The God that creates the universe, who else do you ask for what you want? He already knows. And why is that what I want? Because of black women, because their beauty, inside and out, because of their character, the love they have. There's nothing like it. Look, I would choose a black woman 1,000 times over. I'm just saying. Now, anybody can have their preference and find a good wife in any group. You can. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just telling you what I see and what I experience. And I'm telling you the success I've had in marriage over 28 years. The couple that I showed their video, they have 45 years. It worked for them. It worked for me and my wife. And it's worked for thousands of people across our country. So I think we need to, you know what? Open up our options. Get to know each other. Black women, white men, get to know each other. Give each other a chance. And you know what? Probably won't be disappointed. Just saying. Sorry, I got kind of winded with that.
It's okay. No, and I really like we are love loyal because even I have that tendency, which I'm
Mhm.
glad I know more now because when we love, man, we are willing to die for it. Like we will. I'm not saying this could be bad, and we've seen it in the community where it's bad. But
Mhm.
I mean, there's nothing that comes in between when we decide to give our loyalty or fealty to like a man. There's
Mhm.
nothing that comes in the way of that. And I mean it. Like it's to death, right? Do us part. We mean it.
Yeah.
So that could be good or bad. So hopefully we just
It,
more discerning, more reason with it before we go that part and make sure the person because I
yes.
wouldn't say I want to get rid of it completely. I would just say I just need to learn to make sure that the person I give that level of loyalty to is completely worth it.
Yes. Yeah, because it could be a blessing or a curse. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen black women be with trash guys and still
Yeah,
pour their heart into
right.
them, try to get them right. I mean, even pay for their school, even, you know, do everything in her power. I've seen black women do this. And if she has the right man, oh man, it's
To
going to be
doesn't matter
amazing.
where the ship going. If the ship's sinking, we're sinking with it.
Yeah,
Man, black women will do that. Not it can be great for the right man, but it can be
yeah,
bad for the women if they don't use discernment
yeah,
for themselves. Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's really critical for black women to make sure you choose right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and there, because I don't know, it seems like it's easier for white women to cut it off than black women, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm wrong because I really haven't dated white women like that. I dated, look, guys, I'll be honest, I've dated two white women in my life, and those relationships they didn't get intimate at all because my heart wasn't in it. I was wasting my time because I bought off into this crap that something was wrong with me because I had attraction to black women. And I thought, well, yeah. And I started looking at relationships like an equal opportunity thing. Like I got to be attracted to everybody, but you're not. It's very biased when it comes to, relationships because you have what you're attracted to. You have a certain thing, and it's not all physical, it's mentally and emotional too. So once I could be honest with that, I could be happy. But you know,
So, we want to open the panel up to any other Black women who've been pretty successful and want to give tips as well. I didn't want to, like, I know what I do works for me, and I hope it was helpful for those who are trying to navigate this different social class, but like, love to hear
yeah,
from other people.
yeah, we had a pro white leadership that came on and got dropped off.
Yeah, I love hearing from her.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, we've been on almost 2 hours. But if you guys want to come on and give your experience or just say something, what you think, you're welcome. The links there. Um, sometimes we have a big panel, sometimes not, and that's all right. I think tonight we got a lot of stuff out, and Lisa, you put out a lot of good information. And I can tell when you know tell about your dating experience. I could tell you're strategic. You're thinking,
Oh,
okay,
absolutely.
how can I get with this guy
Yeah.
that's doing this
Yep.
and use these assets?
Yes.
and
All assets. Any asset I have will be put on the table. Even like me putting my van life conversion is sort of like, hey, I know this gets people's interest. Boom. It is out there. It's like a little bait.
yeah.
But I have
And-
a kid too, and I'm older and I want to have more children. So
Mhm.
I don't have, well, I do have the luxury, but I am more strategic because I just don't have a lot of time between my business and family. So
Yeah.
like every move I make has to have like a really big bang out of it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you got to come. You got to get the man that's going to be there not just for you but your children,
Yes.
and that's committed in that relationship because
Mm-hmm.
once you get married, it's a
Right.
package. It's a package deal. If she has a child, guess what? That's your child now. And same thing with women. You get with a guy that has a child too. It's a package deal. I know with my stepmother. I mean, she married my dad. Well, I came with the package deal, right?
Yeah.
It goes, but that's okay. That can be a good thing. That could be a real blessing.
And I'm not
You-
trying to have marriage number 3. I sort of just want to. So
yeah, and
that's it. So I'm being really discerning, but very strategic to cast a wide net before I finally settle on, one person.
yeah, because you want to give your heart to the right man, the
I
deserving
do.
man. That's
Mhm.
going, and the one that's going to put you first. And you know how you're in love with somebody? It's when their wants and needs make yours just disappear. And what I mean by that is what makes her happy, you'll cut off what makes you happy to make her happy.
That's
You'll
how it
put her
goes,
first.
right.
And that's us as men, that's what we're supposed to do. That's leadership. Putting your wife above yourself. Her needs is more important than yours. And when you're married, your wife is more important than you guys. She is. Your children are more important than you. And that's how it's supposed to be. And when you look at it biblically, it says women submit to your husbands, but then it says husbands love your wife like Christ loved the church and gave his life for it. So it's telling us that we're supposed to love our women, our wives enough to give up our life for her. Let that sink in. When it comes down to it, you lay down your life for her. She's more important than you. And people will say, well, that's simping. That's a simp mentality. No, that's biblical. That's what God's telling us. And that's how a community survives. Look, I believe this. A community, a nation, how you treat your women will determine how successful you are. Seriously. If you love and marry the women, you'll have a stronger family, you'll be happier, your community will be stronger. But if you're just having sexual relationships with multiple women, you're going to have a mess. You're going to have children that are unstable, angry, hurt, women that that are trying to make it work, that are just struggling, and that's not right. That's not how it's supposed to be.
Right. Right. It's really sad to see. And it's really ugly, right? Like
It is. And for what? Because you can say you've been with these women, you're
right.
a player, a pimp.
Right.
Oh, it felt good to have sex with her, but look,
Just,
how many lives have you affected by having that good time?
right. Just fractured people,
Yeah.
fractured women and fractured children. And they're going to
Yeah.
pick up the pieces, but it's just, it's sad, you know?
Yeah. It is. And that's why our society is hurting. And that's a
Mhm.
big reason why I say people open up your options. Because if you want to be married, you want to be in that traditional nuclear family, you got to find that woman that you know, meets you halfway on that wants that, you know, and vice versa. And the way marriage is going in our country, look, it's horrible across the board, every group. Okay, we'll look at the black community, they have the most out of birth rate, right? But it's high in every group. So what are we doing as a nation? We're really messing it up. So there comes a time we're going to have to open up our options in the collective. We're just going to have to if we want to be married. 27% of black women are married. So 73 are not. That is sad. That's unacceptable. And when black women are leading the way with education, entrepreneurship, and they're the most love loyal, what are we doing as a society? What are men doing? I'm just asking, what are we doing? Obviously, we're not doing what we're supposed to. I'm just saying. Uh, but yeah, I just, wanted to put that out there. But it looks like nobody wants to come on, so I think we're going to have to
Mhm.
wrap it up here soon. We've been on for 2 hours. I hope what we talked about helps you ladies and guys too. Just put some thoughts in your mind, some ideas. Um, know there's that barrier. Know that we don't see things through the same lens. Okay, you got to understand that. What you think is happening, he might not think it's happening, and that's okay. Maybe he don't know. You got to take that in account. But I would say, if you want to interracially date and have that relationship, I would suggest, you don't have to do this, but being in a community that has a diverse group of people, because they know you, they they're more open. If you look at the Lovings, right? We talk about, I do videos about that every now and then, Loving versus Virginia. You know why they fell in love and got married and it worked out? It's because they grew up in the same area, same neighborhood. They grew up together. They developed a bond as they're growing up, and they fell in love. And they never got a divorce. I Tragically, he was hit by a drunk driver, and he passed on. But they had a strong, solid marriage, and they went through, the sheriff kicking in their bedroom door and hauling them to jail for what? Being married. I mean, they went through that crap. They were humiliated. He was, they there were jobs they wouldn't let him have because he had a black wife. There's real struggles they went through, and in today's world, we don't go through that, thank God. But they made it work, and that's the power couple right there. So, I mean, if it can work back then, and we're seeing it being successful now, look, we have something here that is a true blessing. And I would say to the men, go for it. Don't be thinking back when you're an old man saying, dang, I should have dated her. I should have tried. I thought she was beautiful, but I was too scared. Because that's all it's saying. We all have that fear. We all have our insecurities, and that's okay. But if you're willing to step up and just do it, that's when you become successful. Yeah, you're going to get rejected along the way, but being a man is stepping out of that comfort zone and doing what you got to do to get what you want.
I'm almost at the point where I'm like, well, if you know, you know, you're either part
Yeah.
of the group or you're not, because I'm finding enough white men who are attractive, who are suitors, who are actual suitors. We're talking marriage,
Hmm.
where I feel like there's enough. I did, the tips I did give my tips in the beginning of what I do personally that seems to be very consistent with attracting. But I'm almost getting to the point where, like, if you don't want to check it out, don't. We're having a good time, we're having great marriages, and if in case of like me and my ex-husband, great co-parents. We are really enjoying this and enjoying each other. So like, if you we're going to evangelize this, but like at the end of the day you don't do it, we're still going to
Hmm.
have a great time, great relationships, great marriages, great co-parenting. It's a
Yeah.
different world over here, so it's almost be like, don't join the club if you don't want to, but it's really fun over here.
Yeah. I want to address this. YouTube. Oh, that's that's an original name. Let's address the elephant in the room. Most white men are not open to dating and marrying black women. They seem uninterested. Not all, but most. Consider myself as a beautiful woman. Some make eye contact with me. Okay, let me address this. Look, it don't have to be most white men want to date
Right.
and marry you. It can be a small fraction. Look, white men is the second biggest majority of people in America. The first is white women. So there are millions more white men than black men or black women. Let that sink in. So even if 2% are interested, that's still millions of men that you have to pick from. Look, I I exclusively dated black women. Did most black women want to date me? No. But that didn't matter. I knew there was one out there that would date me. I know there was a few that would give me a chance and be interested. Most, I don't have to have most. Guys and ladies, you don't have to have most. It's about having more options. Look, and I guarantee more than half of white men will date and marry you. The only problem is they don't approach you because it they, they're having trouble getting out of that comfort zone, the racial barriers, the stereotypes.
I also think it's culture, and I think you
Yeah,
guys just roll differently too.
we do, and that can be so confusing because we don't approach like black men. We don't. It's just that's just how we are.
Yeah, it's different
Um,
culture.
Now there are some white men that go for it and don't care, and there's some that take their time, go a roundabout way of doing it. But look, it don't have to be most that want to date you. I knew, and people used to tell me that. Why do you want to date black women? I mean, most of them ain't even going to give you a chance, or even give you the time of day. But in my thinking, okay, yeah, you're probably right, but there are those ones that will, and it's worth it. It's worth going through the rejection and the uncertainty to get what I want. And you know what? I've gotten what I want. Did most black women just want to be with me? No. I mean, I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
you could
But
flip her comment like the other way and
mm,
go, most black women aren't interested in dating white men. But like, are we focusing on black women who don't want to date white men? No, we just focus on black women who do. Do I focus on white men who don't want to date black women? No, I focus on the white men that do. And I think there's a studies that show like at least 9% of white men said that they would marry black women. And 9% way outnumbers our population. So
it does.
black
It,
women. So it's just like, are we going to focus on black women and white men who aren't interested? I mean, to me, I think that's as far as energy goes, why would you focus on that? And so the thing is, it's just to be around those who appreciate you. And I don't know if you just came in, but we spent like the whole hour and a half talking about how to do that consistently and like how to consistently get their attention, talk to
Mhm.
them in the way that I find that they're used to, because I adapt to their culture. So they go a certain way. So I do it a certain way, get consistent results. But they're out there. I just find if you find out how they move and move accordingly, you're going to do better than trying to bring your own culture to it. Like they have a certain culture. Like to me, I find they're more discreet. And so the men are more discreet. And so you have to do things in a way that sort of plays into that, but gets you to the goal. And you might find that you have that all the people you thought were uninterested are within, if you meet them outside through a community or through a social aspect. The same person that might seem standoffish, maybe if you got them in a friend group, all of a sudden you're having the best conversation of your life. And it wasn't that they weren't necessarily interested, just like not allowed themselves until they were clear that there was like a clear welcome mat. Like I think as women, we attract and we welcome. Right.
Yeah.
And I told you how I roll. I'm nice to everyone. I'm charming to everyone. If you're ugly, if you're not, if you're old, if you're young, if you're in a wheelchair, that gets me results. But like there's things you can do as a, I mean, that's what we do. We attract, we troll, we set up bait, right? That's what we do that can gently guide them in. So I could say that can be flipped easily.
Yeah.
But I don't focus on the people who don't like me, right? Like
that's true. And look, Karen W made a point. Black people are consist of 13% of the U.S. population. That's very small. So look at the numbers. Okay, you're only 13%. So there are more black women than black men. So let's say 7 or 8% are black women. Okay, that's 7 or 8% of the population. And there's millions more white men and Hispanic, which is the biggest growing group of people in America.
They love black women too.
Yes, and then you got Asian, and then some Middle Eastern in there. I mean, come on. I mean, if you look at the numbers, and you don't need most to like you, and they've done studies that have shown that black or white men are more into dating black women than black women are into dating white men.
Right.
Most of the time, black women are shutting that door more so than white men. Honestly.
And the ones who have been interracial dating, you don't hear any of us complaining.
Yeah.
Like, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's like you don't hear complaints because we've had enough variety of people. A bigger pool.
But I mean, that's a good discussion. And YouTube, but it's almost 2023. Why is the barrier still there?
It's a different culture.
Yeah.
I think it's just a different culture. And sometimes we like to think in this country we're all the same. But because I was the only black person and I had to be successful, I had to learn white culture. I did. It's different. I move differently within that to be successful than I move within the black community. So I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes we're like, oh, we're all the same. We're not. There's culture, there's class. And if you're not aware of it, there's going to be almost as if you're not seen to each other. But if you are aware of it and you can adapt to like their methods, I think that I find that's the biggest barrier. Because there's a lot of black women who would like to date white men. And I thought this was interesting. I was talking to one of the white guys I was dating. He was like, I've seen black women who try to date white men, but like they were just like, they were not of, gosh, it's going to come across. You might be sensitive to this, but they were like, they just didn't know how to talk. They were just a little bit more slang and more street. Right. And the guys were like, oh, wait, what's this? And aggressive too, like, and coming on to them. And the guys were like not interested. And it could have been like that guy just wasn't interested in that person, or it could have been their demeanor and how they acted. But like we have to I think a bigger conversation, like we have to understand it's a different culture in class sometimes. And if you understand that and you can work within those rule set, it's easier for you to navigate. But we don't like to think about that. So you're doing things that like, oh, they just don't roll this way. You do, but they don't. And so if you do those things, like it's going to be a disconnect because you're not learning their culture and their class, which actually matters. I think that's a big issue.
Yeah, I mean, there are barriers there, but I think we put more barriers in front of us than we really need to. It's and yeah, why in 2023 is there still barriers? Yeah, I mean, we should be more open to this. It shouldn't be a big deal. But it's a cultural thing. It's but those barriers, you could hurdle over them. You can. So she thinks you're a fetishizer. Well, approach her and prove that you're not. Approach her and prove that, you just want to get to know her. And she is attractive. You could tell her that. Um, you can't approach like black men do. Don't try that. That'll get you kicked to the curb faster than anything. And what's nice about black women that I've found is they want white men to just be themselves and not try to be something they're not, because it's weird. But that's saying that, you know what? There's black women that'll accept you as a white guy that you are, and you don't have to be something you're not. You don't have to talk in slang and thinking it's impressing her, that because it really don't. Um, and maybe some white guys do talk in slang that grew up in a black community, but you can tell them apart because it's more natural than somebody that's trying to put forth an
Yeah.
image. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah. Both are horrible, but like one's
Yeah.
cringy and one's just like, you're just a dust light.
Yeah. But seriously though, when you approach black women and just be yourself. And you know what? And if she's interested, you can get into a really nice relationship. And
Oh, and the one point I forgot to make about the world, like, we were talking about the women who wanted to, but they're stalking street, really slang, big ghetto. The thing
Mhm.
is, you don't have to stay that way. You can learn how to not be that way. Like, you don't have to stay within that. So I think like the barriers are like you said, sometimes we put them there, but we can
Mhm.
also overcome them very easily
Yeah.
if we're aware of what we need to overcome. That's what I found.
Yeah, and here's the thing. With slang and stuff, I never really minded it, but if you just, I don't know. This can be kind of unattractive, and I'm not trying to put someone that we talk how we talk, right? But if you're saying slang with cuss words and it sounds like you're from the hood or whatever, and if you're with the middle class white guy like myself, it just seems weird.
You're like,
Like,
oh, whoa, 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 whoa! I
uh,
can't bring you around my fan.
well, it's not that so much. It's like it psychologically, you think this is the one that's going to really kick me to the curb and put me in my place or whatever. Uh, I don't know. I just, if you be yourself, just be yourself.
Yeah, no, and YouTube was like, hey, you brought up how some women talk, the black women talk that might steer white women away. If he really likes her, why not help? Well, I was just saying, we were just talking about those particular women who are a little bit more street, right? And sound a little bit more hood. We've seen where it didn't land, right? But that doesn't mean with another guy in another situation it did land. It would probably have to be another guy who maybe grew up around black folks, but otherwise, like there is a class difference where it's like we don't talk like that. And I'd be highly surprised to see I mean, we got to understand that this is part of it. And I think that's why we have so much trouble. No one wants to talk about class. So if you don't talk about it, you're not going to know the rules. And once you know the rules, it's very easy. We just have to recognize that it's there. It's just unspoken. Once you recognize it's super easy to navigate it. Oh, well, they just do they just sort of rule this way.
Yeah.
And as far as him, yeah, you might find one. I just know I've seen where it's like, yeah, you just have to talk to people if you're going to talk like that, which I don't, I never have. But if you do, I don't think the people in this group do, because I see how you've been texting. But if you do, you have to find someone who's equally yoked, right? Where that's how he talks, right? So
Yeah, and I think it's more of a perception when somebody talks within slang, and maybe he might not even understand you because he don't
or a
understand the
bit
slang
hood,
word.
a bit.
Yeah, or it might be kind of scary or freaked out. Like, okay, but mostly if I don't know.
And they might be doing okay. I'm not hood, so I don't have that issue, right? But I've seen other people
Yeah,
who are, and that's all they know. Well,
and,
sort of people, we sort of know, or no one wants to talk about it.
and and
That's
and
gonna be our
maybe
Achilles heel. That's gonna be your weakness if you don't know.
yeah,
So.
and maybe that's just me being middle class. The black women I've been around, don't talk with a lot of slang like that,
Yeah,
and
me neither. Neither does my
it
social circle. Right.
and I'm not saying it's wrong if you do. That's how you
Right.
talk.
It
I'm
is.
just saying that can be a little bit of a barrier. Um,
Be a bit rough.
um, and and I've seen black women say white guys that talk like that, they kick them to the curb. They don't even want to hear that, you know, because they think you're not being genuine, you're not being you, and and I've seen a perception I have. Maybe I'm wrong. It seems like black men with white women, if they, you know,
She gets this one.
yeah, if she does that, it's like it's okay. They're okay with it. And maybe I'm wrong, but from what I've seen, it seems like they are okay with it.
Well, that's the funny part. Like, I don't hang out with black people who talk like that. So let alone a white woman who does. Like, no, like I'm not hood. I come from the hood, but I am not hood, right? There's a difference. Where I grew up is not where you ended up. But yeah, you're correct. I see that all the time, and I'm always just like,
Yeah.
my face is like,
And look, I'm not saying that's wrong if you talk like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not judging. I'm just
yeah,
saying that can be a barrier, especially with a middle class white guy or upper class. He might not understand. He might have a perception, and he might not be a judgmental guy. He just might think a certain way, like, "Oh my God, she's you know." Because what we see in the media, what we see on TV,
that goes into a certain stereotype more than someone who does not, right? Like the stereotype that would
yeah,
play into it, and that's
and
not
and,
a
and
positive image that has been blasted out. If you fit it in that, if people think that's where you're a part of,
yeah, and look, we all use slang. We do. We don't speak proper English by no bit. I use slang, um, and there's so I don't know. I'm just putting stuff out there.
I try to be hood. If I do use slang or get a little bit more it's like the second or third meeting after they know and like me. Then I'm like, well, then I don't know. I think black women know how to code switch, and that's okay.
Yeah, and yeah, yep. And I'm one that don't speak slang. To me, it's offensive.
I
That
agree.
U.S. Yeah, and you know
I
what? We
agree.
should, if someone speaks slang, that we shouldn't be judgmental. Maybe that's how they talk in their environment, and you can find.
Well, sometimes they be approaching you like, oh, I've had some people like maybe like a retail worker be a little too casual. And like, I'm not one of your friends, so you need to chill out. Like, I don't know you. And yes, I'm black, but that doesn't mean that, you talk, I am older than you. You know what I mean? You'll treat me with
Yeah,
respect. So it can go wrong sometimes. They're like, oh, you down? You're a sister. You down? Like, I don't know you. No, I'm good. Like,
and what would you think if a white guy told you that? Let's say I
well, they
was.
have. I've had white
Oh,
guys
yep.
do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Like in Best Buy or something, like, sometimes like you need to chill out because, ma'am, I'm
So
ma'am to you.
if I ring you up and I start talking like that, what would you think? Like what?
My face will be like, I'd literally be like, ma'am, you can call me ma'am. They get it
you,
very firm, like this is what we're doing. Like you're not, I don't know you.
I would never do that. To me, I
Yeah,
understand that would just seem disrespectful, and it
right.
seemed like I'm trying to like I'm looking at you in a stereotypical picture because I'm
Exactly.
using slang. Like that's what you'll gravitate to.
Right.
It's almost like you see politicians like, hey, uh, I do this. I eat hot sauce because I think black people do.
Right. Like I don't, yeah. And I'm like,
Or like, or you've seen people like,
oh,
and I
sister,
don't
you
want to.
got the hot sauce, right? You got the hot sauce, right? Because I know you got the hot sauce. Like women like the hot sauce. Like, nah, man, I don't.
Well, Hillary carries it in
Opportunity.
her purse.
Lying.
Uh,
She was lying.
yeah, she
Lying.
was. You know what? But honestly, I did when she said that about Huss, I didn't get it. Look, I didn't know that was a stereotypical thing. I use hot sauce, I eat it, but I didn't know it was a black thing, you might say. Um, I
I
didn't
had one
know.
friend that did whip it out, but only one.
Yeah,
I
but
had one girlfriend who was like, she really did like it, but it was just one.
and I told my wife, I was like, "Is this really a thing? Is this like a stereotypical thing?" And she says, "Yeah, it is." And I said, "Wow." And being in the army, we would eat MREs and we pour hot sauce on it to
Yeah.
kill the taste. It just,
Yeah.
I never thought that was a thing. Um, you
Yeah, no,
know,
I like if you approach me like that, like I don't know, you just got to do it in the right way, right? Where it's
yeah,
like it's there's a way to do it where it's fun and
uh
not
huh,
try to say I'm ghetto because I'm black, right? Because
yeah,
I'm Lisa. I have an education, I
mhm,
run my own business, I'm a mother, I'm respected amongst my friends, right? And
mhm.
so you do something that's fun. Okay, you can do fun. Oh, she's a black woman. She'll have fun with this. But if you're doing
Yeah.
something that's like, no, I know she's from the hood. Like I'm not. like
Well,
so if
yeah,
you do so if you do that, I'm like, you could have just like listened to like just I don't know. You just listen to how I talk and portray myself to know like that's where I come from, but like that's not where I'm not. And so I've had a few people do that. It hasn't been recently, but I would be like, we're not. No,
yeah,
you will address me as such, and no, I don't know
yeah,
what you're talking about. I don't
yeah.
do that. And they were in the comments saying I don't listen to rap. Stop listening to that. My daughter listens to pop. We're stopping this generational curse. So
Hey, you know what? This is funny, but my daughter listens to country. My oldest daughter. Um, my son listens to rock. And then my youngest daughter listens to R&B. So it's like they're all different. They chose what they like, and hey, that's great. Listen to do you, whatever makes you happy. You know, um, and there's nothing wrong with different culture where there's things black people do. I think is awesome, and and there's stuff you can find in different culture that you can bring together in your own relationship. It's my brother told me one time. He says, "You know what?" He says, "You have an awesome family dynamic with you and your wife. It's like you create your own culture. It's like you're not living in a white or black culture. You're just doing you. You and your wife are just being yourselves." And he said it's neat.
it
He
is.
he said, "I
It's fun.
observe this and this is awesome." And and that's what we do. I mean, culture is something that's always changing. I mean, American culture, think about it. We have so many different people in our nation that we get culture from different groups. Um, and
I
music. I
I
I
believe
mean,
I believe we're here to learn from each other. That's why I grew up in an
yeah.
integrated neighborhood. It was mixed. It wasn't all white. It was white, black, Mexican, and Asian. And
Hmm.
my daughter, like, she's in a mixed environment, and I cultivate that. I truly think there are things I learn from white people, and there's things they learn from us. I really think we are here to learn from each other. Like,
Hmm.
oh, this, this is a little stereotypical, but I'm like, I sort of like how white folks are always on time for stuff. That's really cool. That's something I aspire like that's really cool. Like I think I can learn from that. Or like they're really good employees. They're like, you are here to work. You don't do anything except work. Whereas like when I worked and I was an employee, I was like, I don't care about this company. I just need to get paid, right? And sometimes I admire because I'm a business owner. I was like, I really admire this about like the white culture. Like if you're 5 minutes early, you're late, and if you're not here on like you need that to run like really effective businesses versus like when I was an employee. And I'm just saying my own experiences, but I really feel we're all here to learn from each other anyways. Like
That that
there's so many things we could take from each other and become better people if we both like share. So I
y-
really, really, really
that
believe in that.
that's funny you said that. If you're 5 minutes, you're on time, or if you're late. It's funny because when I was in the army, I was a young soldier. My squad leader says, "You know what? If you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late."
Right.
And well, in the military, you can't be late. I mean, it's serious,
Yeah.
But but yeah, I mean, there is that stereotypical thing. I remember we were having we had our family over, and it's like my family and my wife's family. They come to our house for like Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving. Our house is like the place to be, I guess, and that's great. And my wife was like, one time, she says, "Okay, and we're going to start this time, okay?" And she says, "Okay, this is the CP time, right?" And and my family's like, "What's that mean?" And my wife said it, and they're like, "Oh, okay." Like, and she was joking, and I knew what that meant, but she said it funny, laughing, and her family was laughing. They got it, and it was just a joke. And you know, and it was like the white people when she said what it mean is like, okay,
You get a little nervous.
yeah, like I. I see you laughing, but this is something I can't laugh at.
Yeah, so
It
I'm
was
gonna let
like,
y'all have it.
yeah, okay. Oh, you don't know what to say. It's like, yeah, you know, but I mean, if we know each other, if me and you are friends and we talk and we can make fun of each other and even our racial background and be okay with it. But on the street, I'm not going talk a certain way, because that's disrespectful. Because that's having a picture of you in a stereotypical way. Just talk to the young lady. If you're ringing her up for groceries, you don't have to say a slang word. You know, it's not really going to make her feel comfortable. Some people
Right,
think, hey, if
right.
they think it's like if you're in a foreign country and you speak their language, they're impressed that you know how to speak their language. Well, with slang, it's not. It's kind
Right,
of like it can be seen as a put down or
right. Trying
a
to put
gen.
you in oh, you with me. You hood like me. Like I'm not. So
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, I know we kind of drifted on
we did. We did.
to stereotypes but
I
I
mean,
would
it's an
just
ugly, uncomfortable such a conversation, but honestly, like we gotta have it, and we gotta
yeah.
be able to have it with maturity. Because if
Wi-
not, it's a silent barrier you're gonna come against,
yeah,
and it's easy to overcome. But you have to understand it's there. It's just no one's gonna. If you do something like that, they're not gonna say anything. They're just gonna
yeah.
quietly pull back, and you're not gonna know why. But I'm like, like we just have to talk about it if we're gonna integrate. And that's been part of my success.
Yeah,
Understand that.
and you got to, especially in an interracial relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
guess what? And I think this is a barrier too with white men approaching black women. The race dynamic, the the history of racism, slavery, Jim Crow, all that ugly stuff. Look, I don't like talking about it. It's uncomfortable, but we have to
Right.
because you know what? You're going to hear it. And especially from the haters, they're going to tell you you're racist, your ancestors did this and you owe us reparation and it's your fault and you're going to have to deal with that. And it's not fun to hear that. Um, you know, and yeah, you weren't there, you didn't do this stuff and it's not your fault, but you know what? You got to be a little sensitive. Yeah, I was wrong and just but when you're in an interracial relationship and marriage, that's going to come across and you got to address it, you know. And that could be I think that's a barrier with a lot of people cuz they don't want to go there. They don't
Mhm.
they don't want to be told, "Look, you're a racist," or and you're not, but there's some black people that see you as that think it's in your DNA and that's how you are, regardless if you did anything wrong, and you got to face it. Life is not fun, it's not easy, and let me tell you the truth, you got to know it and you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
So and those are conversations that are uncomfortable. I don't like to talk about it, but we go there, we end up there. Um and you just got to go through it, navigate through it,
Mhm.
and just be respectful. And
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
truth is the truth.
Yeah.
But in today's world, we can love each other and we can move forward. And you know what? That's the beauty in it. We can, you know, We can have good relationships with black women, white men. We're doing it. And I think
Great relationships. I mean, because I
yeah.
really have fun, like, and so do they.
And you know what? By doing that, we're defeating racism. We really are. You know why? Because we're accepting each other for who we are. We don't think we're superior. We see each other as human beings, as equals. And you know what? We bring families together. Believe it or not, marriage is power. It's powerful. You don't just bring two people together and start a family, you bring families together. My family was brought together with my wife's family. Why? Because of our marriage. You know what? They're friends and they hang out with each other. Why? Because of our marriage. You know, there's been countries that have came together because of marriage.
Right.
There's been wars that been avoided because of marriages. Well, there's been wars that are started because of it too. But honestly, marriage is a powerful thing.
On top of that, can I? On
Yeah.
top of that, Brent, I want to mention. So I see racism as spiritual warfare, right?
Mhm.
Especially against racism against Black women, and everyone will agree. Wow, who gets it the worst? Black women, right?
Yeah.
Like it's known, and it's funny to me that the most obvious way, like you said, marriages heal feuds. It heals wars, right? A king from this kingdom that's warring will send their daughter and their prince and be like, "This, we're not going to attack my child, right? You're not going to attack your child." And it's like the easiest and best way to start harmony. And to me, I feel racism and trying to keep us apart, like that's the biggest part of spiritual warfare. Because what do you get when if it's the people holding the power are white men start dating Black women and having kids? Well, you're going to start breaking down barriers because he's going to have friends, and his friends are going to have a different perspective now that they might not have had. And then as more people do it, that starts to spread and it starts to ameliorate, right? And then all of a sudden, so to me, I think it's very strategic that there's been so much spiritual warfare and attacks against Black women and white men, specifically from white women, from Black men, from white people. Like it's and Black people, it's everyone, but it's the one way that would actually heal the racism in such a decisive way, because you have the top of the power now integrating and sending their kids and having marriage and like deleting the feud with like that side. So what we're doing is fun for us, but we're also like breaking the chains, and we have to understand like that's why they don't want this widespread, Brent. And so it's interesting that you have this platform and you're going against like the thing that would bring healing, and the people in charge, the distraction and the division keeps them paid, right?
Yeah. And you know what? And it does break barriers. And I've been told by racist white supremacists, real white supremacists, not the ones that date Black women like we're being told, right? The ones that believe in white superiority, that only want purity. Yeah, you're all white. They want that. I've had encounters with people like that tell me I'm a disgrace. I'm creating genocide within my racial group. I'm destroying my DNA. They tell me these crazy things, right? That I'm literally destroying white people by procreating with a Black woman. That's how they believe. White supremacy is not going to come after the Black man by marrying a Black woman. That's not how they work. They will just go after him. So this silly stuff by trying to paint this picture of the Black woman being a sellout and bedwench, and the white man trying to get to the Black man with the Black woman, that is so untrue. He just loves Black women and he wants to be with her. It has nothing to do with the men in that community at all.
He had to be bold to do it. It goes
Yeah.
against the grain. So like he had to really have a commitment to it. And I said, I think that's why we are doing so well, because we get the people who are the strongest of each community to withstand all of that social pressure to do it. So you get strength in these unions.
You do, and in a strange way, sometimes you embrace that good fight. that having to go through it. It's funny. It's like
Men need a
you,
fight.
you
That's what
do.
it stands for.
It was like there were times I loved standing up for my wife and telling people off that didn't believe in our marriage. I just embraced it, and it's kind of funny because in my Army career, I had a problem where sometimes I would just say what I felt and didn't care, or they said I was confrontational. Um, but the doctor did a report and said that I embrace confrontation. And I was like, and he told me that. I was like, no, I don't. I don't like to fight. He said, yeah, you do. You do. And maybe that's why, maybe it's a little bit about my interracial marriage. Um, but looking back, I did embrace it. I, I embrace arguments. I do. And I have to work on that because sometimes I say stuff I shouldn't. And I tell people what I think instead of thinking, well, you shouldn't say that.
Right.
I've had to work on that.
You're a righteous warrior. Not all spiritual warfare is like based like out in the heavens. Sometimes it's just saying staunchly, and I'm gonna protect my my black wife, even though every single one of you guys told me I can't. Sometimes being righteous in that
Yeah.
is like why you're here. It's like, a righteous warrior.
Yeah. And you got to see, in a relationship, you got to stand up for black women. All men should, because they are the least protected, most disrespected. I've said that so many times. But if you're married to a black woman, you have no excuse. And if someone says something racist, you can't just like, that's their thing and ignore it. You have to address it. Because if you don't, it's like you're not defending, your wife or your children. But all men should stand up to that crap anyway. And some do. Some just, turn a blind ear and go about their business. But, we need to be more like that. And, us as men we're naturally supposed to protect women, period. Regardless if they're in our community, regardless if they date us, regardless of who they're attracted to. I've heard men say, well, black women, if you're going go over to them, stay over there. We're not going to protect you. To me, that's wrong. No, you're a man. You need to protect women. I don't care if she finds you attractive or calls you every name in the book. As a man, you should protect women. And if we don't do that, what's going to happen to our society? Look what's happening to black women across the country being assaulted. Black women find out that they're missing, and the news not really reporting it, or it's a back page story. What's wrong with our society? I mean, we're not protecting women. We're not being real men, and we need to have. We need to rebuild ourselves as men. I think we need to go back to we protect women. We grow up as boys. We don't hit girls. We protect them. They're the weaker of the sex, and the reason is because men, they're stronger to protect women. They're stronger to do physical labor. We're designed to work. Men are designed to work and provide. And even back in the day when we were hunting, men would go and hunt. It was dangerous. It was physical, and the women, took care of the children, and you provided for them. And in today's world, you go to your job, you work. You're supposed to physical work. We're designed for that as men. That's why we have more of an upper body strength. Okay, and we're designed that way. Our lower body, men and women, I believe are almost have the same strength. Maybe women might even have more abdominal strength or lower body, but upper body, it's men. They have the strength, and it's for work. It's for protection. It's not to beat your wife because she's weaker. No, it's to protect her.
A lot of women right now, spiritually, are going into femininity, divine feminine, because that was just a call that heard around the world. So now that's what we're doing, but we also need men to look at healthy masculinity as well.
Yes.
You guys are broken, and some of our shit was broken, but your shit was broken too. You need to go back to what men mean, and we need to go back to what women need. It is not one, it is both. We both need to go back because that worked better than the crap we're doing now. And us being, you know, softer and listening more, not reacting, and really building our emotional intelligence. But like in return, you need to, you know, I feel men need to start going, I'm the man and I'm going to lead. And this is how I'm leading. This is where we're going. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do this for my family. Right. Like I see it. There's definitely men out there and I definitely attract them. But there's a lot of wounded masculinity where they feel emasculated. And there's a way for you to build that back up. And there's a way for us to like understand your role as a man. So like if you want, you know, I hear I was talking about this on my channel. White women were saying like, oh, if I say something to you, I don't want you to fix it. But I'm like, no, that's what men are here to do. Fix it. You tell them what you need. They fix it. Stop fucking it up. That's what makes them men. The thing is, they don't know that. They've lost this knowledge. And so they're telling you to do stuff that's directly against your DNA. And I'm sitting here like, we need to fix that because we need to understand that's what they're here for. Me personally, I can't wait to tell a man what I need help with so they can help me. Like, just so I can relax a little because I'm tired. Right? Like, I'm tired. So, like, I love it when I'm like, oh, this broke. And they're like, oh, let me get to it this Saturday. Yes. You mean I don't have to call a handyman and pay him? This is amazing. So it's just very interesting. Or I'm having this at work and they're just like, oh, well, why don't we do this? And I was like, thanks. So we need to stop doing things that are telling you to not be men, but like we've lost the knowledge of what the roles are. And knowing the roles makes things so much easier. Right. And that, you know, so that's where we need to get back to. And it's on both sides. So the men,
you're right.
You need your men's club. You need your alpha men and your kings and your warriors teaching you how to be alpha, king, and warrior. And like male mentorship is needed. I remember I was dating this one guy. He was a shaman because, you know, I'm a priestess. He's a shaman. Just as what it is. It's who I attract. And he has this thing down in Florida where it's all like 200 to 300 men gather every year. And it's a brotherhood and they do manly stuff. Like, it's not weird. It's just like fighting and talking and getting their emotions out, but amongst men, which is, I think, beautiful. You need your man only spaces, but it's not toxic. It's not about, oh, this bitch and that and who I'm talking. No, it's about what does it mean to be a man and talking about your feelings around other men who swear to like uphold that and keep it, you know, and think about it. But like, I really feel like we need those groups where they can come together outside of like what tail they can get and like understand like the levels to male masculinity for healthy masculinity, because the divine masculine also needs to be, I think you represent it really well, Brent. And I think we need more replications of that. But I think it's going to take a concerted effort because the women you are hearing more women talking about femininity, divine femininity, being in your feminine, right? You've noticed that, right? All over.
Yes.
Black women.
Oh, yeah.
All got the call, but men need to do that for healthy masculinity because we're doing our work. And if you don't, there's going to be a huge imbalance. Like we need men to like take the lead again. And some do already. So that's cool. It's just a lot. I feel too many don't. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right. And that is a problem. It is. And I think that's why marriage is so important. Because boys need men to raise them. I mean, women do the best they can when they're single mothers, but you cannot raise a boy to be a man.
I told my ex-husband if we would have had a son instead of a daughter, he'd be with him all the time. I'd see him on the weekends because I can't teach him anything. That's you. But I have a daughter, so she's with me the majority of the time and him on the weekends, and that's fine. But like, I would drop him off if it was a boy. Not that I don't love him, because instinctively I know I can't teach him the mannerisms, the energy, how to move. Because it's even energy. I will be giving this boy woman energy. If that's all he's around, that's what he gets. Even if I don't say anything, he needs to be around masculine energy, which is a different resonance, different vibration. Let alone like the learned behaviors a man will teach them, you know. Like I am a big advocate of women dropping their kids off. That's what they used to do in England. It's like your kid turned 12 and they're like, okay, you got to go with this night. We like this night. We respect them. You're going to go with this night. We'll see you for Christmas and holidays. but you're going to train to be a man under him. And you're going to come back when you're 18. Right. So that's what they used to do. And like, honestly, I'm like, I get it. Like they have to become a man and they're not going to do it with you. They're just going to get feminine energy. And look what that's gotten us in our community.
Yeah. And that's a problem because they see the woman, their mother, as the authority figure. And when you're a child, you're dependent on your parents. As a boy or girl, that's the authority in your life. That's the leadership you see. You see the woman leading.
But that's different. It's a different energy, right? It's not
a
strict discipline, sacrifice, structure. You get up even if you're tired. A woman isn't like she will get up when she's tired, but like it's hard. Like we don't know all the different things that go into a man the way a man does, right? Like he knows all the things your dad taught you to keep you grounded, keep you on the earth, make sure that you can get the job done, even when you're tired, even when you're stressed out, you're still going. And like you see some of these men and like they're on the job site for one day and the second day they're just like listless and they don't last longer than 3 days because they don't have the discipline, the drive, the structure, you put it through. That's a masculine energy that was taught to tribal members, like to keep them going through hard times. They don't get it being raised about women their whole time. We're energy of indulgence and like what we feel, not sacrificing, putting it away, right? It's the and so big problems in our community because the women are definitely putting in that hard work, effort, discipline, and you see it in our entrepreneurship, you see it in our education. But then the men, nothing. Like they don't have that level, the manly, that masculine, sacrifice, durability, stoic, and see it through all the way to the end. They drop out of high school, they drop out of college, they drop out of apprentice school. They don't last long on the job site. Like it's just wishy-washy, and it's like because they weren't taught that masculine energy. So within our community, they have a lot of healing to do.
Yeah, and I think too when the woman's in charge, like I said, that's the authority figure, and she can be strict, disciplined, but it's not the same.
It's not.
And then when you become a man, what are these boys going to be looking for when they grow up in adulthood? Are they going? They're going a lot of times look for a woman that replicates their mother
to take care of them. That's what they know. Yeah, they didn't learn to take care of others. Not the way your dad and your grandpa taught you, right?
Yeah,
taught you.
It's a different dynamic, and I think that's a big part of the problem. And what really hurts, in my humble opinion, black men, is these women that uplift them and make excuses and tell them, they're the best, they're the, this and that, and lift them up and blame women for the divorce rate or, out of birth rate, and it's not like you're holding men accountable. And how can
they're being women, right?
Yeah.
Well, so they're being women, so he's not getting what he needs, which is like, no, you messed up, hit you across the head. This is what you're supposed to do. You don't do that, right? Like,
and and it's like, and how can they know anything different?
Right, exactly.
And that to me is a big problem. And I think women, a lot of times as single mothers, I think they embrace their boys because maybe the man's not filling that void,
Right.
so she might cling to the boy because she don't have that relationship with a man, and if she does, it might be short-lived. Boyfriends come and go, but the son is always there, so she wants that masculine energy, but he's a boy. What can he do?
Right.
And I think
they can get because the consistency if their dating pool is rather poor, right?
Yeah,
they get that consistent young kid who has some masculinity, but he's not learning the rules though.
Yeah, and I think that's what marriage, we need it for. And like you said, you would send your boys with your with your husband. Yeah.
I'll see him on the weekends. Bye. And it's not because I can't do it, because I do it with my daughter. It's because what am I going to do with a boy except teach him how to be a woman? So no, he needs to be with you.
Teach,
And it's energy. Like,
yeah,
like don't misunderstand. You
yeah.
can have a young boy with a man, and they don't say anything, but the energy is transferred. There's an energy that gets in your, you know what I mean? It's more than just what's said, right? It's him watching how the man moves. They may not say anything to him, but he saw the man open the door. He saw the man tip the driver. He saw the man help the old lady across the street, even if no words were spoken, right? And then women, he saw the man help the woman with her bags. He saw the man like get up at 3:00 in the morning every day. Even if it's not words, just seeing how they move is an education and his future training that they're not seeing with mothers. So I'm a big advocate of like single moms dropping their male children off with the father. So because it's not going well in our communities. They are literally turning on their mothers. They are turning on their mothers and their sisters one by one by one. And this is what happens when the DNA, it needs to be healed. It's getting so distorted. So he has all this aggression that men have, but without the discipline to control it. So they're acting the way you would act if you had tons of male aggression with absolutely no training.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do. And I think that hurts us in society. That hurt it does. And I'm for marriage. I'm traditional, but really logically, if you look at it and you study it, children that have both parents usually do better than children that don't. I mean, there's always an exception to the rule. I've seen people turn out great that come from single mothers, good men, good women. But usually it don't turn out that way. Usually, they have two strikes against them before they even have a chance to compete. And their resources are lower. If you're procreating with a woman and you don't marry her, you put her in instant poverty. You do. And where all she has is food stamps and
right,
an EBT card and government assistance, maybe Section 8 housing, but she's in poverty already. And her children are in horrible schools that don't teach well. I mean, it's like they got two strikes before they even get up to the plate. And it's sad. And a lot of it is caused by us as men not being responsible. There comes responsibility when it comes to relationships. When it comes to sexual relationships, there's a big responsibility. And that's why biblically it says not to do that till you're married. And the reason is because your kids will not be stable. You cannot, in a marriage, they're more stable. You got both parents. You need, as children, you need the love of a mother and father. I mean, whether you're a boy or a girl, you really need both. And we're not giving them that because we're, as men, we're stuck on pride. We're stuck on, lust, and we're not really thinking about what's really important. We're looking at having a good time instead of building a future. Men are trying to be players instead of husbands and fathers. I mean, and we're paying the price.
We are.
We all are in society, whether you live in the community that's doing that or not. And all communities are doing that. Some more than others.
Well, I hope the women continue what they're doing. And I'm going to have to get going because
I am too.
But I just want to say for everyone, my name's Lisa. I have a channel where I talk about spiritual topics, a lot of divine feminine and raising spiritual children. And I'm thinking I'm going to put on my community post. I was thinking of doing a video on like a little workshop for us all on, like, dating, our dating profiles, and having peer reviews of our dating profiles for those who want to do it and do it well and successfully, and talk about tips and tricks. So I'm going to put a post up, and if you're interested, just post below, and then I'll put a link if you are. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. This is just what's worked with me, and this is how I roll through navigating this integration. And so I hope it was helpful, and just giving you some tidbits of what you're walking into, so you can be prepared and just make it easier.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on, Lisa. I had a good time. Thanks for coming on the show, and a lot of good advice and stuff. And ladies, look, I think it's better that women talk about this than me. I don't know what women go through. I don't know how to be strategic as women are. I can tell you as a man, and I can tell you what attracts us men to you ladies. I can give you that advice, and that can be helpful. But another woman talking to a woman, I think, is more helpful. And the same way with the man. Telling men how to approach it is, has more of an impact than a woman telling a man. She could tell him, okay, this is what we like as women, but she can't really tell him this is how you approach, or well, she could give him advice, but usually it's better coming women to women and men to men with relationships based on our experiences and how we conduct ourselves, how we move. But it's good hearing both sides. I learn things all the time. Like Lisa comes on, I learn stuff from you, and I love how you're positive. I love that about you. You see, you got a good personality. You're positive, and that goes a long ways, ladies. It does. It's very attractive to see women that are positive. But anyway, thanks for coming on. I had a great show, and I hope, ladies, gentlemen, I hope this was. I hope you had a good time. I hope this helps a little bit. And if anybody wants to come on the show, I do drop the link usually when I go on. But if you want to do a one-on-one, I do that too. I like doing that. I like panels. I like hearing other people talk. I like getting other people's perspective. I think that's more productive than just me talking to you and telling you what I think. I mean, it's best when we get everybody's opinion and perspective. That's how we learn. But anyway, Lisa, thank you so much for coming on. And you're welcome here anytime on my panel.
You.
And check out her channel. She's got a channel, and and check out Jerry and Mike, their channel.
Oh yeah, the couple.
Yeah, the couple. They've been married 45 years, 71 years old. That shows character. That shows love. That's a beautiful thing. And that's across the board. Most people aren't married that long, so let that sink in. 45 years, got married in 1976. You can see how their family, they've built a family, and you can see the love just by looking at the pictures and hearing the story. That is a beautiful thing. We need to see more of that. We really do. The positive things about marriage. And black women, white men, look, you got a blessing. I tell you, my life, there's something happening here. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Here come the bot trolls. Let's
I'm going to start saying, if you know, when it comes to interracial dating between black women and white men, because we're having a great time over here. We really are. Yeah.
And I will say to you guys, look, swirl to investment. Okay. Some people think swirling's a bad word. No, it isn't. It just means interracially dating. But when you swirl, do it to investment. And what I mean by that, investment, marriage. That's the biggest investment you'll ever make. So swirl to investment. Do it the right way. Interracially date for marriage. Don't do it for the experience or see what it's like. Do it for true love. That's my advice. Okay, and you do it that way, do it the right way. You'll have a blessing. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and close this. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank
Uh,
you. You're welcome.
uh, yeah, you're welcome here anytime. And thank you so much. I had a good time. This is a good show, I think. And everybody in the chat, thank you for coming on. Thank you for the super chats. That's awesome. I do appreciate that. And I appreciate everybody's comments. Okay. We don't think alike, but we can learn from each other. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close it. Lisa, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Have a good night. All right. I'll see you guys. I'm going to be going on tomorrow on Pro White Leadership. It's going to have a show. I'll post it. I want to do a live Monday night too. So I'll post all that stuff. But anyway, thank you guys. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you so much, Karen. And look, this show I think was productive. I think we got a lot of good points. Are we absolutely right? No, nobody is. And look, I love talking to you guys about dating and relationships, marriage, and we can learn from each other. I don't have all the answers. I can tell you what worked in my marriage, and hopefully that helps you out. And hearing other people talk, we always learn that way. But anyway, have a good night. God bless you and your families, and I'll see you guys Monday night. Or join Pro White Leadership's uh, show tomorrow night. I'll post it, but check that out. And if you got any ideas, email me. If you want to come on the show and talk about relationships or anything like that, just send me an email. And I thank you guys for everything. Okay, this would not exist without you, and I'm very grateful for you being here. I'm grateful for your comments. I'm grateful for the panels we have, the guests that come on, and I'm grateful for you in the chat. I really am. I love you guys. I'll see you soon. Have a good night. Happy Veterans Day, and we'll see you soon.